very, very cool stuff that they do, but this should be a very good race. Iowa always has some spectacular racing, and it's due to the fact that it's variably banked, but we already have cars on the track for tonight's B-main, Greg.
Last year's race at Iowa was one of the best races on the NorthWest Tour. It came down to the wire between Jason Berg and Kyle Lahr, and Kyle Lahr wound up getting the win that night. But this race, neither of those guys are in it. This is entirely different, as we are set to go with the B main as you see it on track right now, and you get a good look at some of these throwback cars. And Peter, some of these cars are just incredible, and it's fun to step back in time and remember when we saw these paint schemes on track every single week.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in fact, you will see some of those cars with some of the throwback drivers' names on them if you don't quite recognize them. Of course, we in the commentary booth will be doing a little bit of guessing out there, I'm sure. Not all of them are the most common of NASCARs, but of course you see up there, starting on the outside pole of the B-main, is Cameron Doyle in a Ricky Craven throwback. We got a Mark Martin throwback. We got Cale Yarborough throwback, 47, Josh Robinson back there. Chris Meringue is one of the Bill Elliott throwbacks. That'd be pretty cool to see both him and I believe Shane Quinn is also going to be featuring a Bill Elliott throwback here tonight, but he's already through to the A-main through qualifying. There you saw a Terry Labonte throwback in the 112. We were kind of arguing over that 112. Is it a Ted Musgrave throwback? Is it a Brett Bodine throwback? Todd Bodine, excuse me. We don't exactly know, but either way, that 112 machine is a good-looking race car, but pace car lights are off, and we're going to get set to go green flag racing with all these good-looking race cars, Greg.
This is a great field of cars, and they're getting set to go with the field in the hands of Brad Morrison as he comes to green flag. Sorry, Brad Carpenter, not Brad Morrison. Got my Brads mixed up. As we're green flag racing at Iowa, we are underway. Brad Carpenter out to a big lead, though, as Cameron Doyle did not go out to a good start.
Yeah, and there's some great racing a little bit further back in the pack. Look at this. There's Brian Lambert in the 57 machine doing battle there with Kyle Frank. Look, it's almost three wide mid-pack. That's Chris Meringue in that 00 machine leading the Cale Yarborough schemed Josh Robinson machine there. He is right behind him is that Piedmont machine. That's what Terry Labonte made his name in. Whoa, that's way up into the outside barrier through turn number 1 and 2. And this racetrack, Greg, is very, very bumpy, very, very treacherous, especially if you hit those bumps wrong. And I think that's what we're seeing as we see the fabulous Hudson Hornet coming out there onto the racetrack. Already a couple laps down. That will not be good. That's 51 machine Christopher Heim. But nonetheless, those cars out there doing work right now. You saw that number 26 machine driven by Brad Morrison do work underneath the 29 of John Haynes. And that is currently the battle for the transfer position out there.
And a lot of drivers were discussing earlier today where they thought the track was going to run the fastest, which group was going to be the fastest. You can see clearly they are still split on that, as some guys are choosing to run the bottom, some are running the top. We're yellow, as one car has gone around, and a couple of cars have gone around. As you see Josh Beal going, and BJ Tidrick, the 72 as well. We take a look at what happened on the 3Y TV replay.
Yeah, here we go. Looking a little bit further back. Ooh, you saw that contact right there at the bottom of your screen. There's the 112 machine. Unfortunately, that Joshua Beal got a heavy chunk of damage there. He got into it with another car. I think that's the number 3 machine of Daniel Masters. Will go on board here, I think, with the number 112 machine. Just got hooked in the right rear. Be interesting to see if we can see this one from an aerial view. Just kind of a coming together early on in this race. You saw maybe a little bit of damage on one of the other cars going by. Here we go, aerial cam view, and I think it was just 2 cars going for the same real estate there, Greg. It looked like the 112 might have come up a little bit. The number 3 came down a little bit. Just had it coming together and both into the wall here in the early going.
Yeah, just kind of a break there as you see it here from a car behind. On board with the 2 car, I believe this was. But you saw it right there, just 2 guys going for the same piece of real estate early on in the race. And that's a tough break for both Josh Beal and Masters in the 3. And Masters has been out for a while, so it's good to see him back in the field. And unfortunately not the way he wanted his 2020 calendar year to start. As we've already got a couple of cars on pit road. BJ Tidrick in the 72. Josh Beal, the 112. A couple of guys on pit road getting some quick service done.
Yeah, a couple cars did going down there. Probably get some damage fixed from that accident. BJ Tidrick, one of those cars down there right now, that number 72 Firebird Trans Am machine. A pretty good looking paint scheme on it, but unfortunately a little bit of left side damage. But up at the front, this man right here, Brad Carpenter, in the number 31, has so far led every single lap. Cameron Dole started on the outside pole, currently running in the second position. Pretty much it's all holding station for the first 8 positions of where they qualified. So you have to go all the way back to Ellie Musgrave, who's actually gained 2 positions in this race in that number 23 machine. But in front of Ellie, all the 8 cars are right where they qualify, but there's still a long way to go here in this B-Main. Of course, if this is your first time tuning into the Northwest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products for tonight's NW Race Report race, they don't have the ability to change tires in this series. The tires that we see on these cars here at the beginning of this B-Main, they have to be on those tires until the end of this B-Main, Greg.
And that's common with the Northwest Tour and the A-Main, but it's different this week. But like you said, B-Main, these tires are there from start to finish in 50 laps on a track nearly a mile long. That's asking a lot, so I'm very curious to see how this race winds up, especially with the track temp 89 degrees and rising. It's not quite Rockingham levels that we saw earlier this year and up in the Oxford as well, but it's going to be pretty hot out there, especially come A-Main time, so tire conservation always key in this series, even more so today in the B-Main, as it's 50 laps on a nearly 1 mile track, no tire changes. This could come down to who plays the tire conservation game the best by the end of the night.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this rule affects these cars once the super lights go to the new tire model. Of course, that is a big discussion in iRacing right now. Pretty much everyone in iRacing has been talking about the new tire model for the last year or so, but it's now been rolled out to some of the oval cars. It was exclusively in the Skip Barber road course car not too long ago, but now it's on some of the oval cars, and it's a handful to drive. The tire really changes its behavior over a run, and it'll be pretty cool to see it once it does make it over to these cars. Of course, that tire can actually blow. These tires, they can, last forever, essentially. They do get to a point where they're not good, but the new tire model, you can actually have a tire pop on you. So that'll be pretty interesting to see if we see any of that happen in the Northwest Tour once the new tire model does make its way to the super lates. But nonetheless, pace car lights are off. Kind of a lengthy caution flag here for the first caution flag of the night, but we'll go green with 41 laps to go in this B-Main. And as I say that, Seth Frazier has come along and said, "Hey, buddy, we're actually going to extend this caution another lap." So we're now changing to a single file restart here. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see. But nonetheless, we're going to have a single file restart with 40 laps to go here in just about a lap. But Greg, we're already seeing a lot of racing midfield. Yeah, lots of 2 and 3 wide action back there, cars everywhere, and that's kind of one thing that you expect when you come to Iowa Speedway.
This track, so many grooves at this racetrack. You can run down at the bottom, you can run in the middle, you can run up at the very top. I mean, this track is probably one of the raciest tracks in all of iRacing, and it's not just that in iRacing either. This track is super racy in real life as well, so whenever anyone goes to Iowa, you can always expect it's going to be a great race, and of course the Tour no different. This was probably the race of the year last year when the Northwest Tour came to town with Kyle Lard taking the victory. He's not here tonight, so it's wide open to see who can capitalize, and there's been plenty of discussion on who can do that in the A-Main, but we still got to figure out who's going to the A-Main and taking those final spots, and right now it's all Brad Carpenter. He had such a strong initial start as he was able to get almost a second ahead of Cameron Doyle. Peter, we'll see on the restart if he can replicate that.
Yeah, we will see here in just about 10 seconds as this car dives onto pit road. Joshua Beal in that 112 machine looks like he's going to stay on pit road. His night is done. Green flag back in the air for Brad Carpenter. dives off into turn number 1, leads the field here. You see everyone flash by, and he's already got a pretty good lead over the second place car, but looking a little bit further back, this is around the transfer position. The top 6 drivers from this B main do transfer over into the A main. Currently, the 6th place is held by Josh Haynes in that number 29 machine. Gets a little bit swirly down there right on the bottom, right underneath the number 26 of Brad Morrison there. Looking out back of Brad's machine. And look at Ellie Musgrave in the 23 as they almost go 3 wide off into turn number 1. Ellie Musgrave down there on the inside in that number 23 trying to get the grip, unable to do so. It's a little bit flatter on that low line than it is a groove up. That's what we mean when we say variable banking. This track actually has different amounts of bank angle depending on what groove you run, but for now, Josh Haynes holds on to the transfer position. Ellie Musgrave in 7th, up 4 positions from where that number 23 machine started. Ooh, the double zero, Chris Meringue in the wall. That's one of the Bill Elliott machines. We'll see the other McDonald's machine in the A main, but nonetheless, that double zero now has quite a bit of damage, Greg.
Yeah, that was a tough break for Chris Meringue. The Thunderbat paint scheme, one of the one-offs that Bill Elliott ran back in the 90s during the Bill Elliott racing days with McDonald's as the principal sponsor. And it's so cool to see some of these cars from the 90s and some of them from the 80s, obviously with the Terry Labonte scheme that we saw. Meringue's again going to hit the wall, and that was a big one, and he is up on his side right in front of, I believe, that was Gary LaViolette. We stayed green for the beam, but Chris Meringue looks like his night might be done. We take a look at what happened on the 3x TV replay.
Yeah, just got up into the wall, got a little bit sideways there, nowhere for that Gary LaViolette number 2 machine to go, and Gary sporting a Dale Earnhardt throwback, mom and pop's machine, and not very many people know Dale Earnhardt drove that machine, but he did. A white mom and pop's machine, and you saw it right there, nowhere for him to go. And Chris Meringue, pretty spectacular, but that double zero machine is now crabbing well off the pace, and he's already fallen 1 lap down. He's still out there on the racetrack, but limping it back to pit lane as, ooh, we saw the 47, Josh Robinson, also smacked the wall in that Kel Yarborough schemed Busch beer machine as he works his way now through turn number 1 and 2. He is just 1 spot behind the transfer spot now as he's gotten around Ellie Musgrave. So Robinson here trying to get around John Haynes. That's the battle for 6. We got to keep an eye on that battle. And here's BJ Tidrick trying to move forward. Remember that number 72 machine was involved in the only caution we've had here tonight. Not the only accident, but only one of them has brought out.
Oh, he got it together with Ellie Musgrave.
No, wow.
And we stayed green.
I was just about to say, there we go, the second caution of the night. Nope, I was wrong. Now let's see what happened here on the 3YTV replay, and this might be, just kind of coming together. Ellie Musgrave coming off the top, and Tidrick was trying to hold that middle groove. And, that's something that's very difficult as a driver to kind of judge here. You have that car right on your corner, and with a multi-grooved racetrack like this, I think Tidrick was running to use that middle groove. You see a lot of drivers run that middle groove, and I don't think Ellie Musgrave expected him to be quite that high up, and they made a little bit of contact. But up at the front, Brad Carpenter's still running away with this thing. Carpenter's checked out to a 1.2 second lead.
Carpenter, that green machine is flying right now. As you see the battle breaking out for the transfer spot, as it looks like Robinson has gotten around the 29 of Haynes, so move Josh Robinson into the transfer spot right now. And he ran the same scheme last year, the Cale Yarborough inspired scheme, because that paint scheme also ran in his family back at his home track. His father ran that paint scheme a couple of times, so not only paying tribute to Cale Yarborough, he's paying tribute to his family through racing with his paint scheme tonight.
Yeah, that's pretty darn cool. And there's that number 26 Mark Martin inspired machine right behind the number 11 Jegs machine of Kyle Franklin. In fact, I don't think you really need to run a Jegs throwback, with Jegs being so synonymous with short track racing all across the United States for many, many years now. But now let's watch that number 26 machine. There we go. Let's see if we can watch that number 26 machine. Looks like maybe a little bit of connection issues on that Folgers Chevrolet. Well, let's see if we can keep an eye on this battle, because Morrison's been pretty darn quick over the last few laps trying to run down that number 11 machine.
And Morrison, you see him right in there, but the battle breaking out for second in front of them. You can kind of see it up a little bit. Brian Lambert in the 57 taking a peek to the inside of Cameron Doyle. That's allowing Kyle Franklin and Brad Morrison to close in. As that all started, Lambert got a really good run off turn number 2. And now you see what getting racy here can do. Not only does it get you caught up in the battle, it allows the guys behind you that we were watching, Franklin and Morrison, to close right back in. This is from 2nd to 5th. All these guys locked in right now. So Peter, if you're these guys, how hard do you want to push it, knowing that you are currently pretty solidly locked in to the main event? How hard do you want to push it at this point?
Yeah, no, that is a very good question. If I was one of these guys, man, I'd just run my line. It is very, very difficult to pass someone on the inside groove here at Iowa, so I'd just kind of run that middle groove. And, you know, if you have cars that are a little bit faster than you at this point in the run, just hold your line. Keep it nice and steady. Keep it where everyone around you kind of knows where your car is going to be. But just as I say that, the number 6 machine of Doyle ran a little bit high on the racetrack. And looks like, ooh, the 47 caught the wall there a little bit. This is looking a little bit further back. This is the battle for the transfer position. Remember, these two swapped positions a few laps ago, but now John Haynes trying to get that 6th spot back here, Greg. And this is important. This is a transfer into the A-main.
Yeah, and those two are beginning to reel into this battle up front of them as well before Robinson caught the wall. That allowed Haynes to get a run to the inside, and that dropped them back a little bit as we check back in at the battle up front. In front of them, no changes there, but Franklin did surrender a run to Brad Morrison. He wasn't able to capitalize as Lambert goes back to work on Doyle for the 2nd spot. Oh, and Lambert had to check up there as he got a really good run on the inside of Doyle, but Doyle came down to shut the door just in time to avoid it. As back in the transfer spot, you can kind of see it in the back there, Haynes again peeking low on Robinson, and this is just a product of Iowa racing right here. We got battles all over the racetrack and A-main implications in it, but meanwhile, Brad Carpenter in the 31 is gone as this battle has allowed him to open up a 2-second lead, but it is incredible racing from 2nd to 5th and the battle for 6th right behind it. This is great.
Some very, very good stuff. I know as a race car driver, sometimes this is some of the most frustrating racing you will have because of the variable banking. There's not a lot of grip on the inside. There's a lot of grip up high. So if you get a good run on someone underneath them, sometimes you just don't have the grip down there to complete the pass. It can get really frustrating. Sometimes you got to get them elbows out, and I'm sure we'll see that in the A-main with these 4 drivers doing battle from 2nd through 5th. I don't expect them to get their elbows out at this point in the race, but sometimes you gotta give someone just a little nudge. You gotta be careful though here at Iowa because it's such a fast racetrack. I mean, this racetrack, it's a short track that kind of races like a speedway. It's very unique. I know Rusty Wallace had a big hand in developing this racetrack, and he kind of wanted it to race like Richmond, but at the same time be just a little bit bigger and race a little bit closer to a speedway. I'll tell you what, he has developed a racetrack that puts on a show. Here we go, side by side now. Kyle Franklin and the number 57 machine, Brian Lambert. They're doing battle for that 3rd position, and I believe that number 11 machine will clear him here coming off turn 4.
Franklin able to get around Lambert, so suddenly Lambert, who had been the guy applying the pressure for the 2nd spot, now finds himself back in 4th. Another product of racing here at Iowa. If you don't capitalize when you get your chance, the guy behind you can get around you just like that. Kyle Franklin suddenly up in the 3rd. Lambert going back on the outside here. We haven't seen a pass on the outside yet, but we know a lot of guys we're talking about running the outside as they're side by side for the transfer spot behind them. We were watching this battle. We didn't realize that Haynes had gotten to the bottom of Robinson, and here comes the 74 of Brian Payne joining it. We're going to have a 3-car battle for the transfer spot before too long.
Yeah, that number 47, Josh Robinson, really washed out coming out of turn number 2. It allowed that number 29 machine, John Haynes, to get a good run. And here comes Haynes once again. Haynes is really getting the power down well up off the corner. Where it's really hurting him, though, is right here through the center of the corner. If he can stay side by side here, I think he'll clear him because he can get the power down just a little bit better than that 47 machine. Unable to do so just yet. You see that 47 trying to power around the outside. I think the 47's gone a little bit too high. He has. And, 29 gets a little bit sideways. And here comes a 47 right back. This is a great battle here between Haynes and Robinson, Greg.
Outstanding racing for the transfer spot. This is just to get into the A main. This isn't even beginning to sum up what we're going to see in the A main, as here comes Brian Payne to the inside of Robinson now, and suddenly this two-car battle for the transfer spot now has a third horse in it, and the fourth one coming, as I saw BJ Tidrick trying to get his way up there as well, and plenty of time left for BJ as we've got a little under 15 laps to go. Tidrick can make some noise here before this is all said and done, as he is closing in at a high rate of speed here. Haynes is gone from now, as Robinson and Payne have gone side by side as they almost get together, checking back in with this battle up front. Lambert trying to get up in front of Franklin, but Franklin able to shut the door that time, and that allows Morrison to try to set up a shot at Lambert. So this battle beginning to simmer down for the time being as guys try to cool their tires off, as the track temp has gone up to 91 degrees, as Franklin taking a shot at Doyle, but he got loose, and that could open the door for Lambert to get a run back.
Yeah, that number 11 machine down there on the inside. And wow, look at Franklin sail it off into turn number 1, 2. There's contact a little bit further back. Battle for the 7th position. Contact between Brian Payne and the 47 of Josh Robinson. Looks like they sorted it out. It's just kind of a hip check. And that number 47 machine gets washed up the racetrack. And it looks like the 74 flipped the numbers there. It's going to get that position back. But wow, Robinson not going away just yet. And wow, looks like Payne's just going to dive it off into turn number 1. It sticks down there on the bottom and makes that pass. But now he has about 1.4 seconds, excuse me. And as now they swap ends, and the 47 underneath the 74. And my oh my, they're doing some really good battling for that 7th position, but it has allowed John Haynes to skip away up in front of them. They're going to need a caution, I believe, if they want to transfer into the A main based off of speed. But this battle here for the 2nd position still hasn't simmered down. Kyle Franklin's still trying to use that inside groove, and let's see if Brad Morrison back there in the 26 can do anything with Brian Lambert in front of him. Fantastic battling here. I mean, you got to be patient if you're these race car drivers, but I'll tell you what, if you get the opportunity, you said it, Greg, you got to take it here at Iowa. You cannot just let an opportunity slip away. It is a very difficult racetrack to pass at. I'm sure some of these drivers might think they're a little bit faster than Cameron Doyle. I mean, they've seen Brad Carpenter just pull away now a 3-second lead up at the front, but there's just no way around that number 6 machine yet.
Doyle has done a great job keeping him at bay, as you saw Franklin get another run off turn number 2. Franklin taking a lower exit, and it sets him up good for a shot at entry here, but here comes Brian Lambert, and lap traffic I see beginning to poke in as well. There's a slower car ahead of these guys. It's the 112 of Josh Beal who's back out there. They still have a little bit over 5 laps to go. This could come into play by the end of it. If they can get up to Josh Beal, how will that affect this 4-way battle for 2nd through 5th right now, as Lambert gets a run on the outside of Kyle Franklin now. Morrison peaking low. John Haynes slowly beginning to reel him in. I don't know if he has enough time to get up there and be a player, though. But here's Franklin to the inside of Doyle again. And the slower traffic is beginning to creep up into the windshield, but Franklin gets the nose in front of Doyle down the backstretch. Doyle fights back on the outside. We'll see off of turn number 4. Franklin gets the nose in front at the line. Couldn't tell.
Yeah, Kyle Franklin was just ahead there, but the thing, what we're starting to see here, Greg, is turn number 3 and 4 is where you're going to have to make your pass. I don't think it's going to be easy to make a pass in turn number 1 and 2, but I think that low groove down there just has a little bit more grip through 3 and 4 than it does 1 and 2, and Kyle Franklin's trying to make the most of it here. He almost slides up into the side of that number 6 of Doyle, riding on board with Lambert. What can Lambert see? Where is Lambert going to go? Is he going to try and ride the high groove here, the middle groove? We'll have to wait and see, but man, Franklin's doing everything he can to try and get around Cameron Doyle, just nothing at this present moment in time able to work, as we have just about 3 laps to go as Brad Carpenter flashes by the start-finish line.
Carpenter is checked out, ladies and gentlemen, but in the closing stages of this one, this is the battle that we have been watching probably for the last 10 to 15 laps single-handedly, as Franklin had to check up there, but it set him up for a great run off of the corner. And he sets up Doyle on the inside. Lap traffic right there. Josh Beal, he's having connection issues at the moment. Not sure where he is right now as he blinked out. There he is, right in front of Franklin and Doyle.
And that is not what you want to see if you're one of these race car drivers, I'll tell you that. Yeah, having someone around you with connection issues is just never fun, but wow, looks like Doyle got a good run there coming out of turn number 2, made it stick. So for now, Doyle is going to hold on to. Looks like Beal's going to stay out of the way on the high groove. So we now have just two. Well, excuse me, white flag is in the air here at Iowa Speedway. Wow, we're already down to the last lap here, Greg. And whoa, Franklin all the way down there on the apron. Got a little bit sideways, just clipping the apron. Now he's worked his way back up in front of the number 57 machine. But man, this guy flag to flag for Brad Carpenter. He'll transfer into the A main. And coming out of turn number 4, Cameron Doyle holds on to second. Kyle Franklin third. Brian Lambert fourth. Brad Morrison fifth. And transferring into the A main.
Oh, contact app.
BJ Tidrick there going for a slide. John Haynes finishing in 6th is the last of the transferred drivers. Just missing out Brian Payne, Josh Robinson, BJ Tidrick, and Gary LaViolette. But we do have 2 provisionals. So the top 2 drivers in points in tonight's race who didn't transfer in on speed will transfer over in a provisional position. We'll have to see if we can surmise who that is here in just a minute. But Greg, why don't you go through tonight's race results for the B main?
Coming home with a win in a dominating performance was Brad Carpenter. Led every lap. He only had to fend off one restart, but both the initial start and that one restart, he checked out, and it was smooth sailing from there. Carpenter, a convincing win in the B main, but it was a battle from 2nd to 5th, and coming out on top of it was Cameron Doyle in the number 6 with Kyle Franklin 3rd, Brian Lambert 4th. Brad Morrison rounds out the top 5, and the final transfer spot goes to John Haynes in the number 26 with Brian Payne first man out, with Josh Robinson, BJ Tidrick, Gary LaViolette rounding out your top 10, Peter.
Yeah, coming home in the 11th position was Ellie Musgrave. Daniel Masters comes home in 12th. Christopher Heim in the 51 machine started this race 1 lap down, wasn't able to make up that 1 lap, and that fabulous Hudson Hornet comes home 13th. Chris Meringue was on his side briefly there in this race, comes home 14, 13 laps down. That 00 made it back to the racetrack. And the 112 also involved in the only caution that we had a lot of front end damage, but also was able to come back out on the racetrack, finishing 15 laps down in the 15th position. We'll see if we can dial up a few interviews here for you in just a brief moment for tonight's race. But before we do, just want to give a shout out to NW Race Reports on Facebook. Definitely go check them out, give them a like. They do live shows each and every week, so you can go check out those shows covering the racing scene in the northwest portion of the United States, and definitely very, very active during the late model season. But we'll step away for just a brief moment, line up some interviews for you, and we'll be right back here on 3Y TV, not only for the interviews, but of course, tonight's A main. Be right back. All right, everyone, welcome back to 3YTV. Of course, we got a great race here tonight for this first B main, and of course, we go over into the A main. But I do believe that Greg Rentz has caught up with your third place finisher at the number 11 machine and the Jegs machine, Kyle Franklin.
Yeah, Kyle Franklin, Greg Rentz, 3YTV, you got a copy.
Copy that.
Hey, man, that was incredible racing between you, Cameron Doyle, Brad Lambert, Brad Morrison. You guys were the show of that B main. You guys were incredible. And talk us through that battle, because you not only had a run at getting past Brian Lambert, but you did later on. You were taking your shot at Cameron Doyle as well. Tell us about that.
I was just testing the car and testing the waters, for those 50 laps. It's pretty much a sprint race, but just seeing what it can do up high, down low, in the middle, and, not trying to get into anybody so they can advance,
And you did a great job of that, keeping it clean, taking your shot. And did you, were you trying any new strategies for the A main as far as like your driving style, or did you have it pretty much set that you're going to be doing the same thing in both B main and A main?
Well, it all depends, man. I kind of read the track temperature too, and as it goes up in degrees, it gets slicker, and there's less things you can do on the track. So, I don't know. I just was about to see,
All right, well, we're going to let you go get ready for the A main, but before we let you go, we know you got some shout-outs you want to give, so who you want?
Everybody that's put this on, man. I appreciate everything.
All right, we'll let you go. Kyle Franklin, third place in the B main tonight, transfers into the A main. Congratulations, Kyle.
Thank you.
And that was Kyle Franklin in the number 11 coming home in third, but Peter has caught up with the guy who fended him off for the late stages of that one. Second place, Cameron Doyle.
Yeah, Cameron, man, that was an intense battle for the second position here in the B main, but you were able to fend them off and be the second car to transfer over. How was that number 6 machine driving for you here tonight? Cameron Doyle, Peter Short in the 3YTV booth. You got a copy? Man, I said all that. Oh, there we go. Did you hear my question, or do I need to repeat?
No, my eyes got back.
Well, what I said was, good job holding on to the second position here tonight. How was that car driving? What was going through your head when you were in that second position? It didn't seem like you had much to gain because Brad had just kind of scooted away from you. Did you kind of think about playing it easy just to get into the A main?
Yeah, the car was doing a lot of weird stuff, doing what they wanted to do. But, I mean, yeah, he just checked out, so I just started running it smooth. And then all, like, third place and back, they just started closing in. So I just started protecting the high side because I knew I'd just be able to get enough momentum off. And, yeah, just held on to it.
Yeah, we definitely held on to it. What are your thoughts about Iowa Speedway? I mean, you were able to hold off that position, but you and I know it's a very difficult racetrack to pass at. It's a lot of fun to race at, but it's very difficult to pass at, and sometimes those things kind of offset one another. What are your thoughts about this racetrack? Do you like coming to Iowa, or is it one of those racetracks that frustrates you?
It can be frustrating sometimes. I mean, just the car, turn 4 is definitely a struggle for a lot of people. But I mean, it's pretty fun. I'm starting to get the hang of it. You just got to figure out the line that sticks with the condition of the tires on the car and just see what works.
All right. Well, before we let you go, Cameron, any shout-outs for us here tonight?
Shout out to just everybody who's watching, all the fans, Seth Frazier and BJ for running this series.
Absolutely. You guys put on a fantastic show, and it wouldn't be anything if it wasn't for them. So big shout out to those two. But nonetheless, Cameron, good luck in the A main. We'll see you in that number 6 Tide machine.
Thank you.
The Tide ride, as it used to be called, but I believe that Greg Rentz has caught up with winner of the B main, Brad Carpenter.
Yeah, Brad Carpenter, Greg Rentz, 3YTV, you got a copy.
I got a copy.
Hey, man, you were hooked up from the get-go in that B main. You set sail from the very beginning, led every lap, and you won that race by almost 4 seconds. Tell us about that run, man, because once you got going, they didn't have anything for you. You were gone.
Oh, I just try to stay smooth through the whole run. Stay off the wall, stay consistent each lap. That's probably the biggest thing is just staying off the wall and just being smooth through this track.
Well, you certainly did, and it gave you a good 50-lap practice run to go to school for the A main. Did you learn any lessons in that 50 laps that you're going to transfer over to the A main with you going to be starting in the 17th position?
Yeah, the entry didn't change much. It's just all on the exit, like Cameron talked about, coming off of 4, coming off of 2 also. It gets kind of hairy sometimes. I don't know if it's a wind or the tires not sticking, but it's just all throttle control off of those 2 turns. And I just stay smooth. It's a long race.
Yeah, long race for sure, but you're off to a great start, leading every lap in that B main. We'll let you go get ready for the A main, but before we do, who do you want to give a shout out to?
I'll give a shout out to Bob's Pet and Pond. That's my dad and mom that have sponsored me through racing for the last 25 years. Mark Logan, John Perkins, Ed Clark, they're all of Wolfpack Racing that helped me out a lot too. And thanks to the series that BJ and Seth for putting the series on. It's pretty cool.
All right, well, congratulations on the B main victory, Brad, and see you after the A main. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Well, Greg, I'll tell you what, that was a good race to whet the appetite for the A main, which is upcoming. Do want to give a few shout outs to some of the people that we have in the chat. One of those is Jay Crable, one of those drivers who races in the American Sim Racing Series that we broadcast here. So pretty cool to see Jay in the chat. But it's going to be a very interesting race here, Greg, in the A main, as I'm just getting word that they have now created the A main server, so we can go get into that here in just a brief moment. But should be a good race here, Greg. Any key stories coming into this race that you want to highlight?
Nothing particular, like, as far as, like, one specific one. There's a couple that I do want to keep my eye on. Like, for example, Shane Quinn. He's been the hottest driver on the NorthWest Tour for the last few races. I'm wondering if he can keep his hot streak going, as he really came out of nowhere with the wins, or with a win at Laguna Seca after the strong run at Watkins Glen. He followed up with a win in the Snowball Derby and another impressive run at Stafford. So I'm wondering if the number 4 of Shane Quinn can make a run here tonight at Iowa and get himself in position for another win. And Peter, I know there's another one that you were watching as well.
Yeah, well, man, there's been some very exciting action this year on the NorthWest Tour. But I'll tell you what, we've had a couple of drivers, get into it this year. And one of that key conflicts that we have seen recently, in fact, we saw it flare up a little bit in practice, Greg, you mentioned it, but that is Bellamy and Barnes. Travis Barnes and Nick Bellamy. Will they be able to see eye to eye, and how will they race each other going forward? That is going to be something we'll have to see tonight, especially if they end up nose to tail out there on the racetrack. As you can see, the server has been reset. A couple cars already out there in practice. And of course, Ryan Gormley. He's a rookie leading the points here in the NorthWest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. And how will he do in tonight's NW Race Reports race here at Iowa? We'll have to see. It's going to be really interesting. Let's see if we can bring up those points, which are led by Ryan Gormley. There they are. 22-point lead over Seth Frazier. Shane Quinn on a tear, like you mentioned. Greg sitting third in points. Bart Hector fourth. Caden Anderson not here. We've heard Caden has had some issues. Fortunately, he wasn't here for the last race at Stafford either. Sean Brightsman there sitting sixth in points. James Polston, Garrett Huffine, Nick Bellamy, and BJ Tidrick rounding out the top 10. You'll see, remember, BJ Tidrick didn't transfer over into the A main on speed, but he will be in this A main based off of his provisional. He will get that provisional based off of his current point standings. But it's going to be very interesting. Those key points here tonight, Greg, whether or not we see some action flare up between Bellamy and Barnes in this race, or will we see Ryan Gormley continue to do well? Only time will tell.
We will see. I'm noticing early on in this one, top of the charts, Casey Garber in the 96. Kind of a surprise to see him up there, but he's been doing a lot of racing in street stocks this week. He's jumped into Legend too, but he's mostly been racing in the street stocks at various tracks throughout the iRacing server. He's been at Phoenix a lot this week, but Garber had a lot of seat time this week. He's at the top of the charts early, so I'm wondering how much all that extra seat time is going to help him in that 96 car in the early stages.
Yeah, and of course Shane Quinn, you mentioned him on that tear that he's on, currently second on the leaderboard. You know, he won 2 very different racetracks back to back. That road course race that we had at Laguna Seca, remember, he actually could have won the race at Watkins Glen if it wasn't for a pit road mishap. So he could have almost had 3 wins in a row, but you go from Laguna Seca over to the Snowball Derby, 2 very different racetracks down there at Five Flags, and then, you know, having a good run at Stafford. He's putting a good time up there on the board. Didn't have the best qualifying lap time. He will be starting still up inside the top 10, but nonetheless, that number 4 car will be pretty darn fast tonight, sporting a Bill Elliott paint scheme here tonight.
So he's the other Bill Elliott paint scheme on the track tonight, as the car you're looking at right now, the Gray Ghost, is the Rockingham winner, Travis McKinney. And it's good to have Travis back, as after the win at Rockingham, the internet connections that he was having seemed to really begin to take an effect on him. So it's good to have Travis McKinney back in the field. And here's another one who's, I take a lot of pride in seeing this one, because myself being a huge Tony Stewart fan from the age of 5, and I love seeing any car, especially the car that he won his first championship with. So I'm very happy to see Dylan Huffines running this one in the number 7 car. This one, as a lifelong Tony Stewart fan, makes me very happy to see.
Yeah, and of course we do have the 2 Huffines brothers in tonight's race, so it'll be interesting to see how those 2 Huffines brothers, once again, that brother rivalry, how they're able to do here tonight. And, you know, like I said, it's pretty good to see that Home Depot machine out there on the racetrack. Very good looking team.
Yeah, I always loved seeing those big orange cars out there on track. As we take a look at some of the other paint schemes that we are seeing out there tonight, you see Shane Quinn there behind Josh Robinson, who we just saw in the A-main. There's Cameron Doyle, got some damage already on the number 6. But there's Travis Barnes. He's one of those ones that you were talking about, that you were keeping the eye on with the situation that's been developing between him and Nick Bellamy through much of the early stages into the middle stages now of the iRacing Northwest Tour. There's Nick Bellamy driving the Dale Jr. All-Star car. And Bellamy, him and Barnes, keep your eyes on them. There you see the Aaron's Dream Machine, Matt Hackathorn, making a rare start now on the Northwest Tour, as he's not able to make nearly as many as he would like to. He's a former winner on the tour as well. Good to see him back. And there's the guy who was top of the charts in the early stages, Casey Garber, in the 96.
Yeah, and that number 20, like you said, Bellamy now top of the board. And it's pretty interesting to see some of the cars that we have in this field. There's the number 17 machine, Brent Holloway, running that Clearwater Chiropractic machine around the racetrack. Good looking paint scheme. Not one of the throwbacks per se, but also nonetheless a good looking paint scheme. Garrett Huffines is in the number 42 machine. Here we got the number 75 machine, the old Milwaukee machine. Go get yourself an old Milwaukee. And good looking machine. In fact, it's interesting to see he's got the Pontiac Grand Prix template on that number 75 machine. So that's pretty darn cool. And there you see, like you said, this is the Ghost. The number 48 machine. It'll be hard to see that machine except when he's throwing up some sparks to help us see that car. There's the number 32. Always a very popular race car, the Kodiak machine. going off into turn number 1, driven by Seth Frazier. And pretty cool to see that kart. But let's see who else we got out there. There's a number 4 machine. That, of course, driven by Shane Quinn, one of those Bill Elliott machines. We saw the 00 Chris Meringue in the first one. There's BJ Tidrick in on points, in on a provisional. Garrett Huffines just left the racetrack. James Paulson is driving a Miller machine, so we got a couple of beer cars out there tonight. And there, of course, is the number 29 machine. That was the last transfer over from the B main, John Haynes. Here's the number 80 right there. Great looking scheme on that Impala body. Of course, all these cars have those Hoosiers on them. And there's the 911 machine of Adam Holm. So Adam Holm is pretty much his regular paint scheme here this week, but I'll tell you what, he's very prideful about that paint scheme. Great looking paint scheme, and it's great to see someone supporting all of the heroes that are out there, firefighters and first responders and such, as Holm brings that 911 machine down pit road. Greg, you got something to say?
Yeah, Adam Holm, he's told me that the reason he went with this car instead of a throwback tonight is he wanted to extend all of his thoughts and prayers to everybody who's fighting the big fire at the Land Down Under down in Australia, as we all have seen on the news just how big and devastating that has been. So Adam Holm electing to forego the throwback tonight to drive the Dial 911 car tonight instead, as an act of support for those brave men and women who are down there fighting the massive fires in Australia. And of course, us here at 3YTV, we're right there with them, and we want to extend as much support as we can to those men and women down in Australia who are fighting this thing, and we are with you in your battle.
Yeah, that is a worldwide story, and it's unbelievable just how much has burned. Someone was saying the other day the size of Sri Lanka is now the size of what has burned down in Australia, so that is a huge amount of acreage that has burned down there. I know a lot of people concerned with the animals that are down there, all the animal deaths that are going to come of that fire, but nonetheless, it's hopefully that fire can be rectified soon. But nonetheless, we're still out here on the racetrack. It's 7:19 out on the West Coast currently, and we're inching ever closer to tonight's drop of the green flag here in the A-Main. You see that Ricky Craven, number 6 machine, finished runner-up in the B-Main. What can Cameron Doyle do in this A-Main? We'll have to wait and see. Looks like we got some cars working their way down the front stretch right now. Thomas O'Hara, of course, the Tim Richmond, Old Milwaukee's best throwback. And we got 2 cars going off into turn number 3 and 4. Ryan Gormley in that Toyota throwback. And I'll tell you what, Greg, Toyota, the scheme that Gormley's running, that's the retro Toyota scheme. But you saw that car on just about everything from their IMSA GTP cars to their rally cars, that sort of thing. But of course, Toyota wasn't in NASCAR back then, so we never got to see those colors on a car until I believe, was it Denny Hamlin that ran that paint scheme? I can't quite remember.
It was DiBenedetto. It was Matt DiBenedetto that ran it.
That's right, Matt DiBenedetto. So pretty cool to see the colors out there on the racetrack right now here as Gormley works his way off turn number 4. In fact, I think he'll come into view. There he is in that number 44 machine, working his way now into turn number 3 and 4 as the practice session will continue to wind up. A lot of people getting a lot of laps in here, Greg, and are you kind of surprised that people are out here running so many laps here in this practice session, or do you think they're just out there having fun?
Oh, I think there's a reason they're running these long laps. I think they're trying to see what their tires are going to do as the longer the run gets, because this is a 151 lap main event in here. So I think these guys are doing this to see how their tires will handle over time, as these guys are running. Currently, track temp is 91 degrees. That's the highest we've seen it all day, as that was higher than it was in the B main. So track temp is at 91 right now and continuing to rise, so it will be interesting to see how they go. So I'm not surprised at all to see these guys taking long runs like this.
Yeah, and of course that track temperature continues to rise as these drivers continue to lay down hot rubber. Of course, the sun is setting here in Iowa, so as the sun continues to set, it will kind of overcome that the laid down rubber, the temperature that's put into the racetrack by the race cars. So the track will probably begin to cool off at some point, but right now, track temperature just going up now. It's up to 92 degrees Fahrenheit, so it'll just continue to get a little bit slicker, and maybe until the track conditions can change and maybe putting down some rubber will tighten up the racetrack, whatnot. But at least for now, it tends to be pretty slick. I'm seeing a few drivers out there starting to struggle. Bart Hector Jr., one of those drivers, sliding out of turn number 4. He might have clipped the apron a little bit. Sean Brightsman running the Federated Car Care scheme. Of course, that paint scheme on that number 46 machine, synonymous with Kenny Schrader. Kenny Schrader ran that Federated Auto Parts car all across the country in just about everything with 4 wheels on it. I'll tell you what, Kenny Wallace and not Kenny Wallace, what I'm saying, Kenny Schrader. Kenny Schrader did a fantastic job with running that car all around the nation, making it synonymous with him and short track racing. It's pretty cool to see that number 46 machine out there right now.
Yeah, definitely Kenny Schrader, just synonymous nowadays, like you mentioned, with Federated Auto Parts. Pretty much, if it was a race car and it had 4 wheels on it, Kenny Schrader was driving one, and it had Federated Auto Parts on the logo. So it's great to see Sean Brightsman paying tribute to that as well. But some of these paint schemes are just incredible, and I don't think we've talked about it yet, but the guy starting on the pole, the 82 of Bart Hector Jr., has probably one of the coolest ones out here, and it's the paint scheme that he's running is based off the fact that he could not find the paint scheme he was intending to run, so he's going with a little bit of a different one that, personally, I think is even better looking than the one he intended to run.
Yeah, that number 82 machine with the GM Goodwrench Service Plus on the hood. I don't think anyone needs to know who that might be modeled after, but that number 82 machine, good looking race car out there. We'll see him get around, I'm sure, pretty darn quickly. He was the fastest qualifier, but we do have the top 16 inversion. So Bart Hector Jr., although fastest in qualifying, will be starting this race from the 16th position as he gets a little bit loose coming out of turn number 4 this time, as Adam Holm there struggling just a little bit with some connection issues. Working that 911 machine now down to pit road, and it's not the first time I've seen Adam Holm practice getting to pit road. I think, this racetrack, we saw it in the B main. You can sometimes get some long green flag runs here, and I think practicing pitting could be very important. So that will be very interesting to see whether or not we get any green flag pit stops. But there's the number 8 machine, Travis Barnes. Of course, that is the standard paint scheme that we see week in, week out for that number 8 machine. So he's working his way now through turn number 3 and 4. Let's see if we can go on board with one of these drivers out there. Oh man, let's see if we can go on board with Travis Barnes. So it looks like he's having a whale of a time. Here we go, on board with that number 8 machine. Dives off into turn number 1. Look at all the bumps here, Greg. Just bump. You can feel all that as the race car driver, and it affects the way your car drives. I mean, it's not smooth over those bumps. You're fighting that wheel. The car is losing grip, gaining grip off and on. And right here out at turn number 4, it looks very slippery trying to get that power down. You're kind of playing with fire because that outside wall can come out and grab you.
Yeah, we saw it a little bit in the middle stages of that B main as drivers later on in the run, they were starting to hit the wall a little bit more and more frequently. So can't say I'm surprised we're seeing some of the same stuff here in the A main, and this is why it was important, I felt, to do these long practice runs, because you know what your car is going to do around the midway point of a run, and it's important to try to figure that out and see how your car is going to react to certain things as the race wears on. So a lot of guys doing this here with the extended practice run, and can't say I blame him at all.
Yeah, of course, we still have a few minutes left here in this practice session as Travis Barnes going to go underneath the number 75 machine, Thomas O'Hara. As we now focus on the number 4 machine, Shane Quinn. Now we're back to this 4-car group out there on the racetrack. And there is Thomas O'Hara running that Tim Richmond throwback machine right there down the front stretch. Got Pontiac Grand Prix template, so that's pretty cool to see out there on the racetrack. Kind of surprised. I don't think anyone else is running that Grand Prix template that he's running, so that's pretty cool to see. I know BJ Tidrick's Firebird Trans Am, that's a pretty cool scheme, or template I should say, as well. So kind of cool to see that amount of variation in this throwback racing. Even Matt Hackathorn racing a Ford Taurus from the late 90s, which is pretty cool to see.
And it's good to see Hackathorn back here in the Northwest Tour, as well as he's only managed to make a couple of races, has not been able to make it as much as he wants to. As we're getting down to the nitty-gritty time in practice, it'll be main event racing time soon. So, Peter, real quick, who are you expecting to probably be the dark horse and I'd say spoil the points picture that we've got so far? Anyone who's not so much up in the top of the points standings that you think can break through and get the win tonight?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I mean, that number 32 of Seth Frazier, he's up there in points week in and week out. But we haven't quite been able to see that number 32 machine, have that stellar run throughout the entire race. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see Seth Frazier tonight parking that Kodiak machine in victory lane. Looking pretty solid here in practice. Just keeps looking to get a good result. Ooh, looks like 42 there. That is Garrett Huffines running off the racetrack there nice and quickly. But I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Seth Frazier get it to victory lane here tonight.
You say Frazier, I'm thinking the guy who I'm keeping my eye on is the guy that's up at the top of the charts. He was on the pole, but he was a podium finisher last week at Stafford, so he's dropping back. I'm thinking we're going to have to watch the 82 of Bart Hector Jr., the Dale Earnhardt car, because he had set the pole, but he has to drop to the back because of finishing on the podium last week. So I'm curious how he'll give the Earnhardt car a ride here tonight, and I think he'll be able to pick his way through traffic very nicely.
Yeah, well, that is it for the practice session. The checkered flag has come out for this about 20-minute long practice session that we had, and we're going to grid up for this race. We're going to have to go through this lineup for you because there is, of course, the inversion that goes on. The top 16 drivers get inverted. So the 16th place qualifier here tonight was actually Adam Holmes. So that 911 machine will be starting from the first position. We haven't quite seen that car make it out there on the racetrack just yet. There we go. And now the whole rest of the field will make it down onto pit lane. And how about we go through tonight's starting lineup? Starting on the pole, the 911 machine of Adam Holm qualified 16th, but due to that inversion, like I said, we'll start from first. Brent Holloway, the 15th fastest qualifier. He will start alongside of him in the second position. On row number 2, we got the 75 machine, Thomas O'Hara. And alongside him, the number 80 of James Poulsen. Starting on row number 3, we have the number 84 of Matt Hackathorn sporting a Shauna Robinson throwback. Remember Shauna Robinson, kind of a stalwart right at the end of the 2000s into the early 2000s, or at the beginning of the 2000s, I should say. But that's where that number 84 machine has raced out there tonight, and starting to the outside of Hackathorn, the 44 machine of Ryan Gormley, your current points leader in that 44 machine. Starting on row number 4, we've got the 42 of Garrett Huffine sporting a Matt Kenseth throwback on that 42, and to his outside, Nick Bellamy and that Dale Earnhardt Jr. throwback. Row number 5, we got the number 32 of Seth Frazier, my pick to get the checkered flag here tonight, and alongside him, the number 96 of Casey Garber. That takes you through the first 5 rows. How about you take it on back there, Greg?
Rolling off in the 10th spot will be the number 8 Travis Barnes, or the 11th spot rather, with Travis McKinney in 12th. Dylan Huff finds the Tony Stewart tribute in the 7 car, rolls off in the 13th position. Sean Breisman, Brad Carpenter, the B main winner, will roll off in the 15th position. Cameron Doyle, Brian Lambert from the B main as well. The Tide Ride, you see Cameron Doyle there. Brad Morrison, John Haynes, and BJ Tidrick round out the top 20. As your final starters, Josh Robinson, Christopher Heim, and then the top 3 in the main event last week, Hector, Quinn, and Tillman. And Peter, we're racing at Iowa right about now.
Green flag in the air. That number 911 machine, Adam Hall, will lead the field off into turn number 1. And he's being challenged by Brent Holloway in the number 17 machine. That 911 got just enough of a good start here. Look at the pack racing on back. Look at the 42 Garrett Huffines there having some connection issues. Tried to go underneath the number 84 of Matt Hackathorn. Wasn't able to do so, and now that number 42 machine finds himself in the middle of 3 wide. There's still some 3 wide action going off into turn number 1. Good racing throughout the field here, but for now, Adam Holmes going to check out up at the front.
The Dial 911 is flying right now up the front, but it is a hornet's nest back behind him as it's starting for second right now. As you see the 75 of Thomas O'Hara to the inside of Brent Holloway for the second spot. The battle breaking out, and it is wild from there on back. Hackathorn up there on board with James Paulson in the 83 wide, and Paulson's on the outside as Gormley is there. Hackathorn in the middle. They do not touch. I don't know how they didn't touch, but man, oh man, the 44 Toyota was all the way down on the bottom, kept it going. Adam Holmes loving seeing this right now, because this incredible battle with about 15 cars there is breaking out. There you saw Adam Holmes pulling away, but it's a absolute hornet's nest back here, Peter.
Yeah, I don't know if this is Daytona or Iowa Speedway. This is absolutely crazy. Almost 3x3x3 on the front stretch as they dive off into turn number 1. Once again, look at Matt Hackathorn trying to get the 3rd position away from Brent Holloway. Holloway on the outside looks like he's kind of fading here in the early going. Already slid from 2nd but to 3rd, and now he's going to lose that position to Hackathorn.
Oh, hot lines, and we have got a big problem.
Oh, and that's the number 7 machine, that Tony Stewart scheme in that number 7. You see him stopped here on the front stretch. A lot of damage to that car. Both sides banged up on the front side. Let's see if we can see what happened here from the air here. Oh, right in the middle of 3 wide there with, wow, the 80 of Polson, the 42 of Garrett Huffines. Looks like he might have been involved as well, but the 44 of Gormley really got lucky there, Greg.
One guy who was unlucky was the 32 of Seth Frazier. As you see Gormley just get the Seth Frazier. Not. Cameron Doyle gets in it. There you see Brad Morrison getting involved, and it looked... I couldn't see... We'll see one more look. Maybe at this one.
Yeah, I'd like to see this one from an aerial view if possible, because, I mean, I don't really know. They were in the middle of 3 wide. This track gets quite narrow here up off the corner, and you see, oh man, I don't think the 44 of Gormley was expecting the 7 to go 3 wide there, and there was no contact, it appears, from Gormley and the 7 machine, and unfortunately for the 7 machine of Huffines, he was just kind of put in the middle there. I think he really was reacting to the car beside him, James Paulson, who appeared to possibly not get the power down quite like he wanted to, and the 7 machine dropped to the inside to see if he can make the move, and the track just closed up, and there was contact, and it was on from there.
Tough break, and hearing that nobody in this one is accepting responsibility, so this one's going to go to the review board after this race is over. So already, early on, some drama going on, and Peter, I don't know if any one driver is at fault there. That just looked like a combination of about 5 different things going wrong at the same time.
Yeah, it was definitely a couple things that kind of came together and unfortunately led to a couple cars coming together out there in the racetrack. And unfortunately, my pick to get the checkered flag, Seth Frazier, got a good piece of it as well. So commentator's curse. Sorry about that, Seth. I know that's not what you wanted in the points race, but luckily Seth is still out there on the racetrack trying to get that damage repaired on that Kodiak Ford Fusion, but will be mired deep in the pack. But pace car lights are still on here. We'll see if they turn off this time. We don't have any cars a lap down, so we might have a quickie yellow. It doesn't look like the pace car lights have turned off, so we'll probably have another lap or two. But Greg, yeah, we've had a couple races like this year, but can you go through the tire situation for tonight's event?
Well, it's a little bit different this time. You're allowed to change tires tonight just because it's 150 laps. The distance on a 1 mile track, 150 laps on these Hoosier tires. That's just asking way too much out of these tires. So we're going to have tire changes. We will see how it unfolds throughout the course of the race, but I'm curious to see what kind of strategies come in and if we'll see guys saving tires in the early stages, or if they're like, hey, we get 4 new tires, I'm going to go all out the whole way. I'm curious to see how this is going to unfold in the upcoming half of this race.
Yeah, and it'll be a sight to see, whether or not these tires will hold together. They look like they held up pretty good in the B main. They held up for at least 50 laps. So it didn't look like a lot of the drivers were getting exceptionally loose like we saw back when we were at Rockingham a few months ago, but nonetheless, pace car lights are off. We're going to get set to go back to green flag action here. We'll be working lap number 11 when we go back to the green flag. 141 laps to go. The flagman has the green flag in hand, and poof, there it goes, and we're back to green flag racing. While Travis Barnes back there in the 8 machine got completely sideways, maybe a little bit of wheel spin, but for now, Adam Hall's going to skip away from
They were bottlenecking in front of Barnes. Morrison, Lambert, and Shane Quinn, and that's a big one. Shane Quinn in the 4. They all got together, big contact in turn number 1, and I think Lambert got the worst of it, but man, Shane Quinn, and they're wrecking behind it. Right as we went to the 3-way TV replay to see what happened, Christopher Heim and Brian Lambert got together, and the fabulous Hudson Hornet and Lambert went around. We were just pulling up the replay to show what happened there, and now we gotta go to another one.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I think the 51 machine didn't quite realize that the 57 was down there. Perhaps maybe he thought he was clear, but they were all checking up in front of him. Well, yeah, I think he knew he was down there. I think he just was coming down the racetrack just a little bit. We saw it from the aerial cam, give us a little bit better view. There was definitely all those cars in front of him checking up. He tried to go down there to avoid it, but unfortunately Lambert was down there in the 57 machine. Also someone else cashing a piece of it with the 51 of Heim spun back up the racetrack. So Heim is going to be given the EOL penalty. Looks like he's tapped for this accident. Just kind of once again, kind of an accordion effect, somewhat similar to what we saw in that first accident with, looks like James Polson in that first one checked up possibly a little bit. 7 got underneath him. This one, there was definitely something happening right in front of the 51 of Christopher Heim, made some evasive maneuver and made contact with the 57. So 2 accidents, 2 caution flags here in the early going of this A main here tonight. 151 laps around the Iowa Speedway for the NorthWest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Product. And tonight's race is brought to you by NW Race Report on Facebook. Definitely go give them a like and a follow on Facebook. Doing some pretty cool stuff. They have their Winning Wednesday at 6:30. That is every week. And then every Monday at 7 p.m. during the late model season. Not the NorthWest Tour late model season, but the real late model season up in the Northwest region of the United States. And really, NW Race Reports, Greg, they definitely do a great job following all of the racing that's going on up in the Northwest portion of the United States.
Yeah, they are a huge supporter of not just late model racing. Late model Monday is the big program for them, but they are huge supporters of racing at the Northwest in general, and we see them. We run into them at tracks all across the Northwest when we're all out there watching. I've actually gotten to work alongside Terry Bridges a couple of times directly at Hermiston Raceway, and me and him worked together at the biggest race of the year in the Northwest, the Fall Classic at Yakima Speedway. Not this past October, but the October before, 2018. They are such a great group of guys, and it's so much fun to work with, and they're just guys you want to just sit around the cooler and talk racing with, and they're such great supporters of the short track scene, so I was so happy to see them come aboard for the iRacing Northwest Tour brought to you by Joe's Racing Products this year. Beyond thrilled that we could have Northwest Racing Report on board this year.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, there is your average race fan, and then there's the race fan that knows a little bit of everything about what's going on short tracks in a certain region, and that's what they are, you know. Very, very cool. Like you said, they're the type of people you just kind of want to sit around the cooler and talk racing about because they know so much. They're so enthusiastic about the grassroots racing scene. So very, very cool to have them on board. And like you said, definitely go give them a like on Facebook and a follow and keep an eye out for both Winning Wednesday and their late model Mondays. As it looks like Christopher Heim has come to a stop on the front stretch. Looks like he's letting a couple of drivers by in that fabulous Hudson Hornet, just so he will be the end of the longest line. He did tap for that incident, and of course here in the Northwest Tour, presented by Joe's Racing Products, we do have the tap rule. If you tap twice in a single event, you're out. So 2 strikes and you're out. Not quite like baseball. So that is 1 strike against Christopher Heim. Nonetheless, pace car lights are off once again, and we're going to get set to go back to action. Kind of sound like a broken record there after 2 caution flags in quick succession, but hopefully we can get a green flag run. We've seen a lot of it. How about that last restart by the number 84, Matt Hackathorn? He jumped past Thomas O'Hara. Will he be able to work the magic again this time? Not quite, as Adam Hall gets a good restart, and Hackathorn's going to slide into second. The battle is for the 3rd position right behind them. Thomas O'Hara on the inside, Brent Holloway to his outside. Looks like the 17 got a little bit sideways there coming out of turn number 2, but he's going to make that pass. So Brent Holloway started second, slid back to 4th, and has recovered. Oh, we have a battle for the race lead between Hackathorn and Holm. They're side by side now at the start-finish line. Here comes that Aaron's Dream Machine in the colors of Shauna Robinson, trying to take the race lead away from that 911 halfway down the backstretch, still side by side. Look at that scrum of cars right behind them. Some great action here at Iowa Speedway.
I love racing at Iowa so much. This is a product of what you get to see at Iowa. If I could have a series that races at Iowa every week, I'd be in heaven, because this is some of the most fun racing you can see. I mean, look at this battle. This is from 3rd on back to, roughly, 15th or 16th that we see battling here on screen. Holloway in the wall. Came down right in front of Garber, and boy, Casey Garber, he's picking his way through the field. That move right there puts him into the top 5. Woohoo, Gormley. Gormley able to get away there. The 46 of Breitzman was the one that got loose, as we take a look on the 3Y TV replay, and he just got down on the apron. All 4 on the apron, made the great save, and the Ken Schrader tribute got loose. But up front, Casey Garber inside of his teammate Nick Bellamy for the 4th spot, and hello, Matt Hackathorn has gone back to work on Adam Halm, but Halm able to shut the door again.
Yeah, Hackathorn definitely showing a lot of pace in that number 84 machine. He's this figured out here in the early going, but man, I am completely surprised by the pace of Casey Garber. You mentioned he's had a lot of seat time in iRacing this year. We have 1 car on pit road, not quite sure who it is. We'll have to see. Looks like it's James Paulson. Oh man, that 80 machine is completely crabbing. There must have been something else that's gone on that we have missed. We'll have to see if we can get a replay of it. Maybe not, but nonetheless, that number 80 on pit road, and he is now retired from tonight's event. Hackathorn still trying to do work on the race leader, but look at this scrum of cars. The number 17 of Brent Holloway now starting to fall through the field. He's hit those bumps way up high, and he's going to lose a ton of more positions here. I'll tell you what, Greg, that high line has the most banking, but it has the most bumps, and sometimes they can just push you right up into the wall.
And we're seeing that exactly with the 17 of Holloway. Boy, Shane Quinn thought, hey, I can get up high and get around him. Battle for the lead breaking out once again. This time Ryan Gormley got around Hackathorn. Don't look now. The Watkins Glen winner and points leader Ryan Gormley to the inside of Adam Holm. There's racing all over the Iowa Speedway right now, Peter. This is incredible.
I'll tell you what, if you're a spectator at this racetrack and you had this bout of racing, man, you would not want to leave. And look at Adam Holm running way up the racetrack, maybe a little bit too high, because we have a new race leader. Ryan Gormley, the rookie sensation, your current points leader, is now on the point here at Iowa Speedway. Here comes Matt Hackathorn. He's trying to get that second position. He lost it to Gormley a few laps ago, but he's trying to get that spot from Adam Holm. I think he's going to do it here through turn number 1 and 2. Sure enough, Matt Hackathorn now back into the second position, but keep an eye on those 4th, 5th, 6th place cars. They're starting to close in on this group in front of them.
Yeah, that battle between Gormley, Hackathorn, and Holm allowed Garber and Bellamy to get up there, and Casey Garber and Nick Bellamy, a couple guys looking for their first tour victories. And Casey Garber, he's been online every single night since Stafford. And Garber using that seat time to his advantage. It's flying right now in the 96 as he's gotten up into the 4th position and is closing on our top 3. Next in his sights is Adam Holm. He's keeping Nick Bellamy at bay for now. And you see the DeWalt Matt Kenseth tribute. Garrett Huffines behind them. Brad Carpenter, where'd the B-main winner come from? Brad Carpenter, as he's up to the 7th position already. Incredible stuff from Brad Carpenter today.
I was just looking at that, Craig. We got Brad Carpenter transferred in from the B-main in 7th. Josh Robinson also transferred in from the B-main in the 8th position. And Robinson, he started back in 22nd. He's now running in 8th, and looks like he's trying to possibly get underneath that number 31 machine. So 14 spots in 29 laps. I know he's had a few accidents that's happened around him, but man, oh man, Josh Robinson on a tear. There's the number 6 machine, Cameron Doyle. He was one of those transferred drivers, and currently that number 6 machine sitting in 12th. There you see BJ Tudrick and the 82 Bart Hector Jr. They're doing battle out there on the racetrack. This is a battle around the 12th, 13th position or so. And there's Travis Barnes. Remember, Travis got completely sideways on a restart just a little while ago. That number 8 machine, one of the Rookie of the Year contenders, he's trying to work his way forward. Getting reports that we might have lost one of the Huffines, the Garrett Huffines in the 42 machine. Don't see him out there on the racetrack right now. I think he's having possibly some connection issues, but this would be an absolute heartbreak for that number 42 machine.
That would be the 2nd year in a row on Throwback night that Garrett Huffines has connection issues in the Matt Kenseth paint scheme. So that was the whole reason he ran the Kenseth scheme again, because Huffines just had the connection issues early in this race last year, decided, hey, we're going to give Kenseth Run another run because it didn't get to do the way I wanted it, and it was not there. But one guy who is there, Adam Holm, the 911, going right back to work on Nick Bellamy after surrendering it, the early leader. And yeah, we just got the notification, Garrett Huffines' receiver fell to unacceptable level. So that's the 2nd year in a row on NASCAR Throwback night. Connection issues haunt the 42 car.
Yeah, that is very, very frustrating for him. But look at these 2 cars doing battle. These are drivers who transferred over from the B-main. Remember, Brad Carpenter led the B-main from flag to flag, and Josh Robinson now up into 6th position, so plus 16 spots in 34 laps. That 47 machine is flying through this field, and now he's caught the back end of Casey Garber and Adam Holm. So that's 4th and 5th position right in front of him. And I'll tell you what, if there's anything about that number 47, Robinson's being very, very consistent with the line he's running. It's kind of running that middle that low to mid groove through turn number 1 and 2, right down there on the bottom now, trying to get under Casey Garber here through 3 and 4, almost 3 wide there coming out of the corner. But Robinson being very consistent. He's getting runs on these drivers where he needs to get runs on them, and just picking them off one at a time.
Robinson doing a great job, and remember, his B main kind of got mired a little bit by some hits to the wall early, so Robinson showing what he can do with a clean race car right now. He's probably one of the fastest cars on the racetrack right now, as he's gotten around the B main winner, Brad Carpenter, who nobody had anything for in that B main initially. So it's good to see Robinson having a good run, as we look at Adam Holm trying to fend off Casey Garber, who shuts the door on Robinson, and that allowed Robinson to key up and get a run on the inside. So Josh Robinson making moves right now in the Busch Beer entry, but here comes Brad Carpenter on the outside. Just as we were getting ready to say Robinson was looking good and got around Carpenter, Carpenter comes fighting right back in the 31.
Yeah, Carpenter got that really good run coming out of turn number 4. Ooh, almost contact there. I think Carpenter got a little bit sideways and had to make some evasive maneuver, checked up. And now here comes that Kenny Schrader throwback of Sean Breitzman in the 46 machine. So Breitzman's going to move up. Remember, Breitzman had that moment not too long ago, and he's made a pretty good recovery to work his way back up now into the 7th position in the 46s. Oh, looks like Adam Holm has relinquished the 4th position to Casey Garber. Wow, Garber completely loose coming out of turn number 4, holds on to it. And we'll have to see if Holm can come back at him. I think Holm might be a little bit too high up the racetrack. I'll tell you what, Greg, I mentioned it a couple times that there are some bumps up there, but as I say that, Holm had such momentum. He didn't quite run high up enough to hit those bumps I've been talking about, so he was able to get a launch up off the corner. We'll have to see if he can cut underneath Garber. Garber says, no, I'm going to block down here, buddy. And now look at Sean Breitzman. Breitzman to the outside of Josh Robinson. We're 3 wide through turn number 1 and 2. Contact between the 46 and the 47. And they hold on to it. Man, I'd love to see if we can see a replay of that, but the 47 and the 46 were almost wadded up. Here we go. Go back on the 3 wide TV replay. Look at this, 3 wide through turn number 1 and 2, and oh, there they go, nudged each other just a little bit, and able to keep those cars going straight. But now here comes Travis Barnes in the 8 machine, Greg.
Barnes is making moves, but while you were watching that, I'm watching the battle for the lead, because Hackathorn has taken a couple of stabs at Gormley as well, and Hackathorn not going away from Gormley, right on, and we got a caution. We have a caution.
Car around on the front stretch. It's Travis McKinney and Brian Lambert in the 57 machine there. McKinney in the 48. Let's see if we can see what happened. Ooh, looks like the 57 might have just washed up the racetrack there a little bit. Hard contact with the outside wall. We'll have to see if we can get another angle just to... That was my gut shot feel there. You see the 57 down there low on the racetrack, and then it looks like it just washes up the racetrack. Kind of looks like McKinney was holding his line, and unfortunately those 2 cars had to come together, and that will bring out the 3rd caution here tonight in the Northwest Store, presented by Joe's Racing Products. Here tonight's race, of course, brought to you by the NW Race Report on Facebook, and unfortunately for the 57 and the 48, quite a bit of damage on both those cars, but looks like they're going to be able to keep on going. In fact, it looks like Brian Lambert's going to tap for that one. That's who looked like it pushed up, yes. So that number 57 will tap for this one, but I think we're going to step away here just for a brief moment for a quick commercial here on the Northwest Tour, presented by Joe's Racing Products on 3YTV. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Iowa Speedway, and we're about to get set to go back to green here in about a lap and a half or so. Currently, your race leader is the number 44 machine of Ryan Gormley. Started this one in the 6th position, and he's worked his way to the race lead here in the early going. Not quite yet to the 1/3 race distance here, as it just about reaches the 8 o'clock time in the West Coast. And that number 44 machine has definitely showed some pace, but I'll tell you what, you were mentioning it, Greg. Matt Hackathorn wasn't going anywhere in that 2nd position. He was holding onto the back of that number 44 machine for dear life there, and was definitely pretty racy. Kind of poked his nose around that 44 machine, trying to see if he can get some downforce on the nose of it and see if he can make a pass. Great to see Hackathorn back in the Northwest Tour.
Yeah, it's been kind of bumming me out not having the 84 of Hackathorn in the field, and he's showing why he thinks that he can make some noise in the Northwest Tour with this 2nd place run right now. A lot of people, I thought, with how Gormley's been doing the last 5 or 6 races, being the points leader, thinking that he was going to walk away as soon as he got the lead. Hackathorn saying, I'm staying right here with you, young man. You took my number, you're not going to take my win, too. He wants a shot at Gormley.
Yep, absolutely. He wants to get back to victory lane here in the Northwest Tour, presented by Joe's Racing Products, and wouldn't be at all surprised to see him get back to victory lane at some point. We were also mentioning the fact that this is one of his favorite racetracks, so it'd be a great place to see him do it. But nonetheless, green flag back in the air, and I'll tell you what, Hackathorn looks like he spun his tire just a little bit, but he was able to get going pretty well. But it has allowed Gormley to scoot away just a little bit. Bellamy also suffering from a little bit of wheel spin, so a little bit of breathing room between the 44 and the 84, as well as the 84 and the 20. We got one car hard in the wall. Looks like that's the 92 Casey Tillman, and that Carling Black Label beer machine has got a lot of right front damage now, doing battle with Brad Carpenter. Carpenter finding himself back in the 9th position now, as everyone doing battle off into turn number 1 and 2, 3 wide. Up the middle comes Sean Breitzman in the Federated Auto Parts machine. He's trying to do battle with Adam Holm for the 5th position, and not quite able to clear that 911. There he goes.
Oh,
just
he
clears
barely did there. And did Holm catch the wall there, or was there enough room to fit a piece of paper? Because it was so close. It was so close there. I think he got the wall. Just a little bit as Barnes comes in after Breitzman in the 46, Travis Barnes in the 8. He's a guy that I'm expecting to win from, as Breitzman has a little bit of connection issues. I'm expecting to win from Travis Barnes before too long in this blue number 8 car. As Holm caught the wall again right in front of Carpenter, and Carpenter's going to get the run to the inside this time, and he has Tillman kind of trying to figure out where to go. And behind that, a guy we haven't really talked about a whole lot, but he set quick time, but because he had to drop back because of the finishing on the podium last race, the 82 of Bart Hector Jr. not able to get away like he wanted to early. But here you see him holding off Shane Quinn, another driver who has been extremely hot in the Tour the last few races. Probably the hottest driver in the Tour right now is the 4 car. But you see right here the 82 of Hector kind of having a nice solid run. He started 23rd, he's up to 11th. He set fast time, so he's picking his way through, but it's a long race. We're only a third of the way into it, and Hector doing a nice job getting through the field early. We'll see how much he's saving for the second half.
I'll tell you what, Greg, play the Jaws music, because Matt Hackathorn, he caught Ryan Gormley last lap, but we have a caution out on the racetrack. Looks like Cameron Doyle in the 6 machine, the Tide Ride, has gone around. Maybe a little bit of the spin cycle there off the front end of the 29 machine. And good job by Cameron Doyle just to lock it down. Looks like no significant damage. That, of course, being the number 29 machine driven by Josh Haynes. We saw both of those drivers transfer over from the B-main, coming together there in turn number 1 and bringing out the 4th caution of the night. And we're getting close to the halfway distance here. I'll tell you what, do you think we're going to see this be the opportunity for these drivers to come down and take tires or not? Greg?
Not yet. I don't think it's going to be for probably closer to halfway, but we'll see. And why don't we ask one of these guys who about when they're thinking about taking tires?
Let's see if we can dial up your current race second place driver, Matty Hackathorn. Matt, man, I'll tell you what, you're giving that Aaron's Dream Machine a ride out there. Tell us a little bit about how that car is handling for you.
It's handling great. Just trying to keep the tires underneath it, and I'm just waiting for that 44 to make a mistake, and he's just not. He makes little ones, and then I just make a little one, and anytime I get to the inside, he gets too much a run on the outside because the tires are getting pretty worn out. So I'm just waiting for him to leave me a lane someplace or make a big mistake someplace so I can get past him. I'm getting antsy back here. I want to push him, but I don't want to wreck him.
Yeah, well, I saw you made a couple of moves there. In fact, you ran him down from about 0.4 of a second back to being right on his back bumper. So you definitely have some pace out there. And of course, Greg and I, we've mentioned this a couple times. Iowa is one of those racetracks. It tends to be fun to race at, but it can also be very frustrating as a driver. We know that this is one of your favorite tracks to race at. How important is it to just kind of be patient, like you're saying?
Very. If you start ripping off your tires, then you're going to be sitting there looking 45-degree corner or 45 degrees off the corners, and that's not what you want to be doing. Especially, we do have a pit stop coming up, but the more tires you can have before that pit stop might help you get past the people that have been pushing. That's why I've been keeping as much pressure on the back bumper of this 44 as I can, because if I can get past them before the pit stop, then I can come out in front and I can just run away with it, hopefully.
Yeah, that pit stop is going to be a very interesting portion of this race because you and I know these pit stops with these super light models, they take a good chunk of change on pit road, and there's a lot of variability in iRacing pit time. So it can kind of be a game changer on pit road. Is that something you also have deep in the back of your mind?
I'm trying to keep it back there right now because every time I think about strategy, I usually never make it to the point of my strategy. So right now I'm just going for broke, trying to keep myself in check enough by keeping right there just in case.
Yeah, definitely very interesting, way to handle this race. There are NorthWest represented by Joe's Racing Products race where we don't have the opportunity to come down pit road and change tires. This one, you have the opportunity to do so. So it's going to be interesting to see just how some of these drivers handle it here in just a little bit. But looking forward, how do you think the track is going to change? Is the track changing? It's cooled down a little bit from the start of the race, just a couple degrees, but has the track changed any from your perspective?
The entry to me seems a little bit higher than it has been for most of the day in practice and all of our prior sessions. But coming off the corners on both ends, it seems like it's really, really getting hot. A lot of people, like especially me too, it's very hard to keep that rear end in check right now. It wasn't like that till about lap probably 35, 40s when I started noticing the change. But I think as it goes on, as soon as it gets rubbered in, I think we're going to have to start expanding out. Like as I'm running that modified bottom run, I don't know if that's going to keep working, but that's just my ticket currently. And then if I can find someplace else to make time, I'm going to find it.
And what about wheel spin? Looks like you might have had a little bit of wheel spin under that last restart that we had. Is that something also in the back of your head for this restart?
Yeah, I'm going to start switching to... Been doing lower gear restarts than most everyone else, but I'm going to have to go up a gear now. Gormley was doing the same thing, but it's getting rough. It's getting very hard to keep it in check, and I do not want to go spinning across the infield or spinning in front of the field.
Alrighty, well, Matt, best of luck in that number 84 machine. I'll let Greg move you back to your channels. We're about to get set to go back to green. Best of luck.
Thanks, guys.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is your current second place driver, number 84 machine of Matt Hackathorn, and he's right behind the number 44 of Ryan Gormley. Pace car onto pit road. Green flag in the flag man's hand, and there it goes. We're back to green flag racing here at Iowa Speedway. And looks like everyone good start throughout the entire field. My race producer saying, "What on earth did you just say?" I said, "There it is." Nonetheless, your race leader halfway down the back straight. Ryan Gormley headed off into turn number 3 and 4. There's a little bit of breathing space between him and Hackathorn here. We saw that under the last restart, but Hackathorn was able to close in on your race leader. We'll have to see if that happens again as everyone flashes by the start-finish line. Greg.
Garber got the wall off the turn number 4 that time, trying to reel in Nick Bellamy. And Bellamy, he was ready to go on that initial restart as he got up right under the tailpipe of Hackathorn, had to back out of it. Garber saw advantage in the fact that Bellamy had to check up to get a run, but he hit the wall off of turn number 4 last time. Keeps it off the wall this time, but not before Breitzman was able to get around him. So Garber now beginning to struggle a little bit, but long race still to go, and he can kind of bounce back as he settles down to try to get back there. But Hackathorn was right back there on Gormley as we see Casey Tillman, last week's winner, who has very quietly made his way into the top 10, Peter, as he is going for Josh Robinson for the 8th position. Had him at the line that time. Casey Tillman started shotgun on the field in 25th position, and here he is just quietly making his way up into the top 10.
Yeah, well, of course, we saw that number 92 machine hard in the outside wall not too long ago. You see a lot of right front damage in the that right front quarter panel vicinity as we have a side-by-side battle between Sean Breitzman here and Travis Barnes in the number 8 machine. This is a battle for the 4th position. We just saw Breitzman take that spot from Casey Garber just a few laps ago, but Barnes wants it. Not been really impressed with this number 8 machine. He has slowly but surely, methodically worked his way now inside the top 5 and trying to get that 4th position. Looks like Breitzman might have kissed the wall there coming out of turn number 4, and I think Barnes is going to clear him, and we do have a new race leader. Matt Hackathorn has taken it to the point underneath the 44 of Gormley here going off into turn number 1. And looks like Gormley might have clipped the wall there coming out of turn number 4. Gave Hackathorn the run, sailed it off into turn number 1. And that number 84 is your new race leader here in that Aaron's Dream machine.
Great job by Hackathorn to get the lead. But, hey, Peter, what was one of the things we talked about before this race started? The history between Travis Barnes and Nick Bellamy. Look who's running 3rd and 4th right now. Nick Bellamy, Travis Barnes. Not saying anything, but just saying the guy in 3rd and the guy in 4th do have a history.
Yeah, luckily there's a little bit of breathing. Oh, we have one car, I think, well off the pace on the front stretch. It's the 17 machine. Josh Robinson had a huge save coming out of turn number 4. We'll have to see if we can get a replay of that one in the number 47 machine. Not one of those. Not quite sure why we're looking at this here. It's the number 47 of Josh Robinson coming out of turn number 4 that we saw. Big save. Went all the way down to the bottom of the racetrack in that Busch machine. Okay, here we go. I think we're gonna get it here. Nope, we're already a little bit too far past it. So, but man, for Josh Robinson, here we go. Let's see, we got it dialed up now, I'm hearing. Going off into turn number 3 and 4, right down there on the bottom, and watch that number 47 machine just takes off into the outside. Oh, what a save. You can see he laid down some rubber. And lost a couple positions, and now a lot of right front damage. I know, Greg, we said this earlier about Josh Robinson. He was so fast early on in this race, as we have Travis Barnes. And look at this. Barnes and Bellamy are now together on the racetrack. The 8 is run down the 20. Let's see if they race each other clean here, Greg.
Well, Barnes was on the inside of him and had the nose in front of him the lap prior to this, but bobbled, and that allowed Bellamy to get the run back, and they came close together as Barnes is able to shut the door on Bellamy this time. And now we really have to keep our eyes on the 20 and think, what is he going to do now that the 8 has gotten past him? I know Nick Bellamy doesn't want to do anything that would hinder him and or Barnes, but he's got to be smart here and try to reel Barnes back and not let the emotions of what's happened in the past get the better of him as Barnes goes to the inside of Gormley. They go to work for 2nd. Barnes able to clear Gormley into 3rd. So Hackathorn, he said he was waiting for Gormley to make a mistake. He caught the wall, and he already, we saw it under the previous caution before that, had a little bit of damage on the right front of the car. I wonder if that contact to the wall perhaps made it worse on the 44 car.
Yeah, it might have done, and you know, Barnes is really laying down some fast laps. We're now just about 4 laps away from the halfway distance in this race. Will he be able to run down Hackathorn at the cross flags point in this race. I don't quite know if he has the ability to do so, but he's definitely closing on Hackathorn very quickly. And Bellamy and Brightsman now doing battle. That's for the 4th position. Brightsman has run down the 20 from quite a long ways back, and having to slide around because he had to check up for the 44 of Gormley, who shut the door on Brightsman down there. Brightsman definitely had to check up. That 44 is arcing his corners so much as we have a caution. This is the halfway caution here at Iowa Speedway, so the field is going to come to the pace speed behind the pace car, and I expect to see most of the field come down pit road and take tires here at this point, if not everyone on pit road taking theirs. So that will be a good point in the race to do so, right at halfway. It is an admin thrown yellow. You see the iRacing Ford Mustang pace car now out there on the circuit, but there's your race leader, the 84 of Hackathorn. Barnes just couldn't quite catch before the cross flags. A very interesting race, Greg. There, with the green flag runs that we've had. We've had a couple cautions. This is now the 5th caution of the night, but we have had some good green flag runs in there. It's kind of been caution breeds caution, but there again, we had a good, good 10, 15 laps under green flag conditions. But we'll see what happens on pit road and how these pit stops can change this race.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. All comes down to who can get in and out of pit road the best right now. A couple of cars staying out for the time being as our leaders pull into their pit stalls. And Peter,
well, I don't know if Hackathorn got into his box or not. I saw him throw it in reverse, but I think he's okay. Well, at 92 of Casey getting reports that he completely missed his pit box. I'm not seeing Matt Hackathorn get tires here.
Brad Carpenter, I believe, only took 2 because he just shot out to the lead. Brad Carpenter, the B-Main winner, is suddenly finding himself in the lead in this one. After a strategy call. This is you just said it. This is going to be an interesting restart.
Yeah, and this is going to be killer for Matt Hackathorn. He's still sitting on pit road. He must not have remembered to click his tires. He's had a 50-second long pit stall. He's in danger. Oh, he's finally rolling out of his pit box. But he was in danger there of falling a lap down. I mean, he went from the race lead to basically being the last car on the racetrack in one fell swoop. That is just absolute heartbreak for Matt Hackathorn. The only thing I can think of is he decided to uncheck his tires early in the race and then only checked them once he got in his pit box to change tires. So that is absolute heartbreak for him. But there's your new race leader, Brad Carpenter, who won the B-Main. Maybe he's thinking that clean air is important. And Greg, why don't we see if we can dial up that machine, Brad Carpenter. Hey, Brad, this is Peter Short in the 3-Wide TV booth. Currently out there, you're the race leader here, and I'll tell you what, it looks like a little bit of a strategy call. Talk us through it.
Well, taking a strategy with fuel, and it's either going to bite me in the butt or be a good thing. So the car's pretty good. Just trying to bide my time. 80 laps more, though, on the tires, so it'll get pretty sketchy at the end of the race. Like I said, I hope I make it on fuel.
So just talk us through your strategy. So have you you haven't taken tires yet, or did you earlier, or I guess you pitted under the last caution and took tires? Is that it?
No, we're not allowed to take tires. This is the only time we can take tires in this race. So
okay.
we can take fuel anytime we want or repairs, but this is the only time we can take tires.
Okay, so you are going to finish this race with the tires that you started with. Is that correct?
No, we just took tires right there. Took 4 tires. Everybody took 4.
Oh, okay.
Well, anybody that was, yeah. So now everybody's on fresh tires, and so.
So your only question is fuel. So you took fuel a little bit earlier on to shorten the pit stop. Is that correct?
No, I just took less fuel. I think that a lot of people took a bunch more fuel and I took less. So I have 16 gallons left, and Not sure that's going to make it, but we'll find out.
All right. Well, that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. But thanks for giving us the lowdown. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that one here on 3Wide TV. Definitely going to be pretty cool. I've won races on fuel mileage before. You get a couple cautions in there to help you out, but nonetheless, we'll let you get back to it. Best of luck.
All right, thanks.
All right, that is your race leader. That man right there, driver of the 31 machine, Brad Carpenter. We're about to get set to go back to green flag action. And Greg, we're kind of rolling the dice on fuel strategy, but if it works out for him, you'll possibly get the checkered flag, Base car's off. Green flag back in the air here at Iowa Speedway, just past the halfway distance in tonight's race. Brought to you by the NW Race Report on Facebook, and that number 31, Brad Carpenter, right where he was at the end of the B main, leading this one. And look at Travis Barnes in the 8 machine. He was in second before this halfway caution. He's in second now, looking for that race lead. That number 8 machine, very, very strong now. 4 fresh Hoosier tires on it, trying to get the lead from Brad Carpenter. Very, very tight there through turn number 1 and 2. Brad Carpenter, he's going to have to do some defending now that he's out front, because that 8 machine was just so fast.
Yeah, Carpenter on defense right now, because Travis Barnes in the 8 was coming after Hackathorn there before that caution, and now he's got to get around the 31 of Carpenter again, as he had to make his way past him earlier. Gormley and Brightsman battling right there. I'm keeping my eye peeled for that 84 of Hackathorn to see if he can make his way through the field, because if it's anything that Hackathorn can be happy with, it's the fact that he has probably one of the fastest cars in the field. As we saw evident in that first run, we knew that he was a fast car, so he was able to stick with Gormley, and now I think there's a heat-seeking missile behind the wheel of that 84 car, and we'll see if he can get back up there and make some noise before this one's over.
Yeah, he restarted 19th for everyone watching. He's already up to the 16th position, battling with Travis McKinney for 15th. But here a little bit further forward, there's Shane Quinn in the number 4 machine, leading this 4-car group. And we haven't heard all too much from Shane Quinn tonight. He's kind of been languishing around that 9th position now for quite some time in that Bill Elliott throwback McDonald's machine, and he's lost a little bit of ground to Casey Garber, but he does have a good chunk of damage on the front end of that race car, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's affecting him. Here comes the number 7 machine, Dylan Huffines, trying to get underneath Christopher Heim in the fabulous Hudson Hornet out there, and Heim sitting in 13th as he's trying to make that pass on Huffines around the high side, and makes it right there. So Heim is 13th, right behind Cameron Doyle in the number 6 machine. Remember, we saw Doyle spin around just a few laps ago. Doyle's doing battle with Brent Holloway. Holloway, who started this race from the outside poles, now sliding back to 11th as we got a good battle up here towards the front. Look at Sean Brightsman in that Kenny Schrader scheme, trying to get around Ryan Gormley. These are 2 drivers who we have seen very, very fast so far in this 2019-2020 Northwest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products season. And I'll tell you what, Brightsman has a nose right to the inside of the 44. Gormley looked like he might have kissed the wall there a little bit, but nothing Brightsman could do just yet. Good battle between these 2.
And Peter, behind this battle, who's in 5th? Where in the world did Seth Frazier come from? He was caught up in 2 accidents to start this race. I thought his night was all but done after the second one. Here he is up in the top 5 right around halfway. The announcer's curse might not be over just yet, like you mentioned earlier. Frazier up into the top 5 now, Peter.
Yeah, Frazier had a fantastic stop. He went from 12th to 5th on pit road, essentially. So Seth Frazier, I wouldn't be all surprised if he kind of did something like Brad Carpenter, where he took maybe a little bit less fuel than a lot of the other cars around him. And of course, Seth Frazier had come down pit road and taken fuel earlier in the race because he came down road to get some of that down pit road to get some of that damage fixed. So that might have been what's pole vaulted Seth Frazier here into the top 5, but he's making the most of it here as he's watching Sean Brightsman and Ryan Gormley still do battle for that 3rd position. Here comes Brightsman on the inside once again, unable to do anything just yet. He just couldn't get the momentum up off the corner like the 44 of Gormley, but I think he might have something here on the inside groove. We've seen the inside groove here tonight be pretty darn fast. As, getting reports that Christopher Heim has left the racetrack. Looks like he just peeled off. Oh, man, Christopher Heim had a big moment in turn number 1 and 2, got onto his side in the 51 machine. Let's see if we can dial up a replay of that. Brought it down pit road, night over for Christopher Heim. Here we go, into the bumps. Watch, hit those bumps right there. Just couldn't turn the race car. After hitting the wall, got loose and hooked up into the outside wall, got on the side. That's it for Christopher Heim, unfortunately, and the fabulous Hudson Horning. Did I just say that? The fabulous Hudson Hornet. That wasn't a typo. Right next to each other. The Y and T are right next to each other. Well, that's a Freudian slip. But whatever, nonetheless. That's going to be a replay. That's going to be a highlight of 2020 right here on 3-Wide TV and Northwest Tour.
Oh, boy.
But nonetheless, we got up at the front. Still, Travis Barnes unable to get around your race leader, Brad Carpenter. Man, I'm still choked up over that one. Greg, take it away.
Peter, I'm seeing the 46 of Brightsman right now, and you mentioned it about 5 or 6 laps ago that Seth Frazier was watching the battle between Brightsman and Gormley. Frazier's also taking a little bit extra interest in what Brightsman can do because those two are going head-to-head along with a couple of other drivers for another championship tomorrow night on Virtual Racing Network, the Northwest Xfinity Series championship race at 8:15 p.m. And both Seth Frazier and Sean Brightsman, 3rd and 5th in this race, are in the championship battle going into that. So Frazier can get a run and maybe get some momentum going for Brightsman as Hackathorn's still making his way through the field. He is climbing through the field right now. Let's see where he's at right now in the 84. He's up to the 12th position trying to make a run.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, this battle between all these cars, whoa, look at Hackathorn right there getting really tight to that number 17 machine. He's still trying his best to get around Travis McKinney. McKinney and Hackathorn have been glued together and really tight there through turn number 1 and 2 once again. And Dylan Huffines using that really high line, trying to do battle with the bumps that are up there. He got a decent run there coming off the corner though. And, whoa, contact the 44, the 17, Hackathorn in it, the 84, big wreck here on the front stretch, the 6, the 17, the 92, Casey Tillman spinning up, Hackathorn gets a double whammy, and oh man, Hackathorn's probably thinking, what just happened there? I was up there, up at the front, pit road mishap, and involved in this accident. You see, Hackathorn did a good job, and then he got hit once again down there in the grass. Big accident here, the biggest accident so far of the night, involving about 5-6 race cars. It looked like it was the 17 and the 84, was it, that had it coming together? The 6, the 92?
48 of
the
McKinney
48,
and
yes.
the 17 got together to start that one. Let's see here on board, I believe, with Holloway. There it is, and tough call there, but man, just unfortunately, the product of this is a lot of very fast race cars with damage.
Yeah, without a doubt. And man, look at Hackathorn. He did such a good job of saving it there through the grass, and then out of nowhere, boom, Casey Tillman appears stage right. And very, very unfortunate for both of those race cars right there. And look at Cameron Doyle in the 6 machine. Ooh, this is on board with Casey Tillman. Yep, and Tillman slid down. Yep, there's Hackathorn. Ouchies. I know, we said Casey Tillman. That number 92 machine pretty quick out there on the racetrack, especially on that long run. And unfortunately, now a lot more damage. Look at BJ Tidrick. Let's see if we can get an angle of BJ Tidrick going through that one, because I think Tidrick might have just scooted his way through it. Here we go, on board with the number 72 machine. You see all that smoke, cars spinning everywhere. Oh, good job there, BJ Tidrick. Man, that was some excellent accident avoidance. Well, let's see if we can possibly dial up driver of the number 84 machine of Matt Hackathor. Well, let's see if we looks up. Well, we picked up Nick Bellamy there for a brief moment, so let's see if we can just talk to Nick instead. Nick Bellamy, Peter Short here in the 3OI TV booth. You got a copy?
Hey Peter, how's it going?
Well, pretty good. I'll tell you what, that Dale Jr. Bud All-Star, the MLB All-Star paint scheme, very iconic. He put together a fantastic run in that car, did Dale Earnhardt Jr. You're kind of backing that up with a good run here tonight. Definitely worked your way up towards the front in that long, those long green flag runs that we had a little bit earlier on, now in the 6th position. How's that car driving, and what's your outlook for the remainder of this race?
Car's driving excellent. I see fast cars in front of me, including Brightsman and the 8 car. I think I got something for the rest in the long run, but it's a fun track, and I'm proud of this scheme under the lights.
And I'll tell you what, Dale Earnhardt Jr., he definitely gave that thing a good run at Daytona back in the day. And what do you think about Iowa Speedway? It's a very interesting racetrack. I've heard the consensus, it seems like drivers like it. But what's your opinion of this joint?
It's very enjoyable under the right conditions. We got night being one of them, but this setup we're driving is very tough. It is not forgiving at all. When you get on the gas out of the 8, she starts pushing, and she's loose in. So it's a handful, and the longer you go, the looser it gets.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's a little bit slippery out there. Or just talking to Matt Hackathorn a couple cautions ago, he said it gets really slippery off turn number 4. But he's also saying the track might be starting to change a little bit. Have you started to notice the track change?
Yeah, more or less just in that last run. I realize these guys in front of me are pretty quick as well as me, so we're going to have to really battle and maybe put some moves on them to get by. It won't be as easy as the first run to the front.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you got an opportunity here at Iowa Speedway to make a pass, take it, because sometimes it can be very tricky to pass here. But nonetheless, pace car lights are still on. We'll give you the opportunity here on 3YTV to give some shout-outs under this extended caution that we have.
Well, I'd like to thank my sponsors. Normally, I drive a QPM car, Quinn's Property Management, as well as Better Hall. And my parents for watching. Supporting me in racing here in the off season and during the normal season, and BJ and everybody in the league, you guys in the broadcast booth, for just putting on a fabulous show. I enjoy very much watching after the race is over.
All right, well, best of luck, Nick, and hopefully you can bring this number 20 machine, Dale Earnhardt Jr. inspired machine, to victory lane, much like he did back in the early 2000s. Best of luck.
Appreciate that. Take care.
All right, well, we have the 1 to green here. We're going to get set to go green flag racing. And it's going to be a pretty good run to the finish, I do say, as we're now just under 50 laps to go. And Matt Hackathorn looks like he spun it out on pit road, so now he ends up lap down, goes from bad to worse for him. A green flag in the air. Look at the 44, Ryan Gormley poking his nose to the outside. It's legal to pass around the outside before the start-finish line. Unable to do anything with Sean Brightsman there, but nonetheless, we're back to green flag action. Look at Sean Brightsman there, right behind the 8 of Travis Barnes. And Brightsman, like Barnes, here in the middle portion of this race, has really made a surge to the front, and you see him trying to warm up those tires, it looks like, a little bit down the front stretch, just kind of wobbling the race car back and forth just a little bit to try and do battle with that number 8 machine of Travis Barnes. And we heard from Bellamy. Bellamy thought that number 8 machine was very, very fast. What can Barnes do? And of course, we do have the question, does Brad Carpenter in the 31 have enough fuel to go the distance here, especially with some green flag racing, Greg?
And there's another car in the field that I got word is worried about fuel. And this one's a much, much big name as well. And it's kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. The 82, Bart Hector Jr., fast time. He's nervous on fuel. He's not sure he can make it to the end. So fuel mileage going to come into play here at the end of this one, as Hector also is worried about the fuel situation on this one.
So if that's 2 cars that are going to have fuel, how many other cars might be concerned with the amount of fuel that they have on board with now just 45 laps to go? Here comes Casey Garber underneath Adam Holm. That's a battle for the 7th position. Holm's going to hold off here coming out of turn number 4, and that's going to allow the number 4 machine, Shane Quinn, to make a move on Garber here going off into turn number 1. That number 4 machine, like I said a little while ago, he's been just languishing around this 9th position, which is where he finds himself in right now, right in front of Bart Hector Jr., who we just got that report on in the 82 machine. Might be short on fuel, but here towards the front, here's Nick Bellamy in the 20, as well as Seth Frazier. Remember, Seth Frazier, he might be another one of those drivers because he pole vaulted himself from 12th up to 5th. Maybe Seth Frazier might be short on fuel. I'm not 100% sure, but we do have a battle a little bit further back in the pack. This is BJ Tidrick underneath the number 29 machine of Haynes. And there's Garber and Seth Frazier, excuse me, not Seth Frazier, the 4 machine of Shane Quinn still doing battle for that 8th position. Looks like 96 of Garber's going to hold on to it at least for now. But Greg, this could be a very interesting finish here.
And this is shaping up to be another epic finish. And you said it as soon as we finished with pit stops, this was going to be an epic second half. And it's setting up to be so because strategy abound. Plenty of cars on varying strategies and some big names with differing strategies. We will see how it goes for these last 40 or so laps. This is going to be a wild finish, Peter.
And whoa, contact! 47 machine is around on the backstretch, and that is going to be bad news for Josh Robinson. That Bush machine, hard contact with the outside wall. I think he was doing battle with Casey Tillman. Yep, there's Casey Tillman right there in the 92 machine. And it looks like the 92 might have come off the bottom of the racetrack, and then maybe a little bit of net code plus a little bit of contact. And it looks like it put that 47 in the wall. Let's see if we can see that from the air. 47 looks like he's holding his line. And yeah, it looks like 92 just kind of shot up off that bottom line just a little bit. And might have made contact. Looks like Josh Robinson, though, is tapping under this caution. Looked like he was holding his line to me. I know that's kind of difficult for the car on the inside groove to, judge sometime, especially with the lack of grip that's down there. But Josh Robinson looks like he's going to tap. That's going to allow Casey Tillman to not tap, so I'm sure Casey's happy with that, although that number 92 machine is on pit road as we speak. Of course, if some of these drivers are looking like they're going to be short on fuel, they can come down onto pit road, take fuel if they need to. But, of course, for that man right there in the 31, Brad Carpenter, he doesn't want to come down pit road. He is your race leader. And I'm sure he's doing everything he can to save as much fuel under these cautions as possible, probably dipping the clutch, getting those RPMs down, keeping the car in 4th gear for as long as possible, just to save as many drops of fuel as he can.
So Morrison, or Carpenter, that's the second time I've done that with the 2 Brads up there. Carpenter, the B main winner, leading the charge right now as you see Brian Lambert going by, but he's leading the charge, but he gambled on fuel on the pit stop, as did the 82 of Hector. I'm curious who else that we don't know about gambled on fuel there.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting once we get close to the end, especially, like I said earlier, if we get a long green flag run, just how many of these drivers will fall off the racetrack onto pit lane as to not run out of fuel. But that man right there, that bright green machine, trying to do the B main, A main here tonight, which would be pretty awesome to see that happen. Of course, he started back in the 15th position in that 31 machine. Now running 14 spots better than where he started this one. Shane Quinn has plus 15 spots. Started 24th, now running in 9th. In fact, it's Shane Quinn and Brad Carpenter, your 2 biggest movers of this race, with now only 38 laps to go. This racetrack just under 1 mile in length. In fact, it's a 7/8 of a mile racetrack. Kind of a unique track length as well. I know that was a talking point when this place first opened in Iowa, was the fact that it's not quite 1 mile, but it's bigger than Richmond International Raceway out in Richmond, Virginia, which is a 3/4 mile racetrack. So they really wanted this racetrack to be unique, and I gotta say, it definitely has a unique spot in the oval racing scene, and it's a spot that a lot of drivers we've talked to a couple here tonight say they like racing at this joint. I think part of it's just the fact that it is unique. You know, a lot of the NASCAR series go to a lot of cookie cutter racetracks that kind of race very similar to one another. You know, Atlanta Motor Speedway, Texas Motor Speedway, Charlotte Motor Speedway, Kansas, Chicagoland, etc. But this track, it races a little bit like Richmond, but it's completely unique. You know, it's definitely a cool track to come to, and I'm sure that's why a lot of the drivers like it, Greg.
Yeah, a lot of drivers said Iowa was the race they were most looking forward to. In fact, in the weeks leading up to this, Jay Tidrick was, I mean, lack of a better term, Tidrick was beyond hyped for this race because of how racy it is. And we saw how great the racing was last year in this race. The B main was great from that battle between second, third, fourth, and fifth. And what a great job there. And what a perfect chance, or perfect racetrack to have Throwback Night, and Throwback Night wouldn't be possible without one of our main sponsors, Mike Wood, who put the Throwback cars together for so many of these guys. So many of these paint schemes were done courtesy of Mike Wood and Mike Wood Race Designs. So many of those great cars on track right now, they are courtesy of our friend Mike Wood.
Yeah, also want to give a shout out to Kathy Roche. She says, disappointed you boys haven't said hello to me tonight. Well, hello there, Kathy. We're glad to have you here each and every week here for the NorthWest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. And the green flag is back in the air here. 35 laps to go.
I'm sorry,
Brad
Kathy.
Carpenter,
Hi,
your
Kathy.
race leader. And there you go, Carl. You got an extra shout out there from Carlos Acosta, Mr. Man. And I'll tell you what. We're going to see a couple of these drivers up at the front. And let me tell you, Kathy, you can let Greg hear it after this race. There's a lot of good action going on out there on the racetrack. There's Adam Holm in the 911 machine. He's trying to get around Casey Garber. We've seen those two cars battling it out here over the last 10-15 laps. There's also the number 4 machine, still Shane Quinn in the 9th position. That seems to be his number here tonight. But I'll tell you what, Greg, looks like battle for the race lead might be starting to heat up just a little bit. I think Travis Barnes here is starting to turn up the wick on Brad Carpenter. You see him. He's trying to find grip. He's trying to get downforce on the nose of that number 8 machine. As we get word that Matt Hackathorn has taken his car to the garage, unfortunately. So Hackathorn's night is over after what looked to be such a promising run.
Peter, going back real quick to this battle for the lead between Barnes and Carpenter, here's something I'm wondering. Carpenter said, hey, I'm gambling on fuel. Do you think word on that got back to Barnes, and Barnes might not be going for the pass right now, but he's staying with Carpenter to push him a little bit and just cause him to use that much more fuel here in the beginning closing stages of this race? 3 wide behind is Hector, who's another guy who's worried on fuel, making a charge on Quinn and Halm. Hector backs out of it, and looks like Quinn is going to get the spot from Halm for now. But Peter, do you think that might be what Barnes is doing right now? Not so much going for the pass right now, but more or less making Carpenter go harder than he wants to at this point and use up that much more fuel?
It is possible. You know, we have a caution. Well, I'll come back to that in a moment, but Casey Tillman is, these two getting together once again, Josh Robinson, Casey Tillman. And let's see what happened here. The 47 machine, Casey Tillman caught the wall there, and nowhere for Josh Robinson to go, but into the back of the number 92 machine, sending Casey Tillman around. Casey Tillman actually ended up tapping for that contact that he had with Josh Robinson before. I will think he will tap again for this. And in fact, Casey Tillman is pulling the number 92 machine off of the racing surface. And 2 taps and your night is over. And for Casey Tillman, it is unfortunate end to what was such a good run. And of course, you know, having that amazing run at Stafford, not going to be able to back it up with a good finish here tonight at Iowa.
Tough break. Well, Peter, we are getting the closing stages, so I think it's time for one more commercial break before we set up our finish. So we'll be right back from 3Y TV Shootout coming up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Iowa Speedway, and I believe that Greg Rentz has dialed up. Driver number 82 machine, Bart Hector Jr., Greg.
Yeah, Bart, Greg Rentz, 3YTV, got a copy.
I do.
Hey, man, you mentioned that you were worried about fuel mileage in the 82 car. Has that worry gone away? Has it gotten worse? What's the update on this?
Yeah, these 3 cautions, I think before I said that, has actually helped me out. I got 9.7 gallons left for 26 laps to go, so I mean, I should be fine. So you'd think I would be anyways. Unless I just get terrible mileage.
Yeah, stranger things have happened, though, as you know, in the world of racing, but we're getting set for restart, so we'll let you go, but we just wanted to get a quick update on your fuel mileage strategy because we knew that you were worried about that.
Yep, I figured I'd let you know.
All right, thanks, man. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Well, Greg, we're going to get set to go back to green flag racing here, and it should be a spectacular finish here. Be 24 laps to go when we go back to green flag racing, but I believe you've caught up with the driver number 92, Casey Tillman?
Yeah, Casey Tillman, Greg Runs 3YTV, got a copy.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Hey, Casey, not the night you wanted. What's going on out there?
Yeah, the pit road deal was tough deal because we, everybody was driving down the left side. I missed my spot. But other than that, I mean, I was having a lot of fun. We were working towards the front. I think we got up to 8th at one point, but just one thing leads to another. My mistake. It's all good though. It's all fun and games, right?
All right, man. Well, we're back green, so good luck the rest of the way.
All right. Well, man, oh man, I'll tell you what, fantastic restart there for Ryan Gormley, but he's not going to be able to do anything with it. Looks like the 46 of Sean Breisman might have spun his tires just a little bit. Gormley had to do some evasive maneuver. He's battling with Seth Frazier now. He's going to hold on to 4th here at the line with now just 23 laps to go here at Iowa Speedway.
Sorry about that. The 7 of Huffines, you see him going to work with the... Oh, contact, Haynes! And there we go. We got big problems going on here. See, look on the 3-wide TV replay.
Yeah, oh man, yeah, the 7 of Huffines. Looks like he might have caught the wall there, and Haynes got involved in the number 29 machine. And there's the number 29 machine. Lots of right side damage on that machine. Let's see what happened here from the 29's perspective. And, ooh, yeah, it looks like the 7 caught the wall. It's really tight there with BJ Tidrick in the 72. And the 7 caught the wall, bounced back into the path of the number 29 machine. And unfortunately, both of those cars, quite a bit of damage here with this race. And we got another caution flag. I'm sure that's what Brad Carpenter wanted to see up in the race lead. Remember, he's worried about fuel. These caution flags are going to help his fuel mileage.
Yeah, it's for sure. So these cautions, definitely the 31 is loving seeing it right now. So it is going to be interesting, nonetheless, to see what happens with this 31 car leading the way.
Yeah, man, can he make it on fuel only? Time will tell. And remember, there is always the possibility about green-white checkers, which would be pretty darn interesting, whether or not. We already heard he's concerned about fuel, but if we get those green-white checkers, could be even more worrisome. So let's reset the field for you here with just about 20 laps to go. In fact, 20 laps to go on the dot. Brad Carpenter, your race leader, concerned about fuel. Travis Barnes had a huge surge through the field around the halfway mark. He's currently running in the 2nd position. Sean Brightsman followed Travis Barnes through the big pack of cars. He's now running in 3rd. Ryan Gormley was your race leader, just around the halfway distance. Relinquished the lead to Matt Hackathorn there. But that number 44 machine has been in the top 5 for most of this race. Seth Frazier in the 5th position in the number 32 machine. Good run for him. Good bounce back. He was involved in a couple accidents early on. Nick Bellamy in the number 20 machine. He's running in the 6th position. Good run so far for Nick Bellamy. Nothing has come of the Bellamy-Barnes rivalry in this one. Casey Garber running in the 7th position in the number 96. Kind of a solid run for Casey. You mentioned, Greg, that he's put in a lot of time, a lot of work this week in the iRacing service, and that is showing with some good pace out there on the racetrack. Shane Quinn running in 8th. Bart Hector Jr., one of those drivers who is also concerned on fuel. He's running in 9th. And in the 10th position, Adam Holm in the 911 machine. That's through top 10 here with just under 19 laps to go. But, Greg, I'm going to ask you, who do you think is going to take this checkered flag when we're all said and done?
Man, it's all going to come down to who makes the first mistake up front. I think Carpenter has gotten enough caution laps now that where he might be in good position to be able to go for it. But Barnes has been putting the pressure on him. Brightsman is up there looking for his first win in a while. Don't count out the 44 of Gormley. He led early. You got Frazier, who's just made an incredible charge up into the place and stayed there. Nick Bellamy up there as well. This is a wild one to try to predict here late in the closing stages of this one, but it's hard to pick a winner, Peter, because this has been so crazy a race, and it's truly been a race of comers and goers, because every time we think we see a guy who looks like he's going to be able to check out, something happens and it brings the field right back up.
I gotta give credit though, Brad Carpenter. Remember, he made that strategy move on the halfway distance, and he hasn't relinquished that race lead. He's led from pretty much the halfway point. Maybe a lap or two after that, but he's now solidly led for over 50 laps. And with these laps winding down quickly, if he gets another couple cautions and he has enough fuel to make it to the end, that number 31 machine might have made the strategy call of the year.
And if it can pay off, he'll become the second driver in as many races to win the B main and the A main. So Brad Carpenter can join a very elite crowd there with Casey Tillman as the only ones to do it if he can pull this off. But long way to go still. Closing stages of this one. Peter, this race is just getting started. It's going to be so much fun these last few laps.
As you can see, the Ford Mustang iRacing pace car lights are off, and we will have a 16-lap shootout here at the 7/8 of a mile racetrack, so 14 miles left once we go back to green flag action here in just about half a lap. And you see Mike Wood Race Designs up the top left corner of your screen. He's also in the chat here on YouTube. Pretty cool to see that. So like you mentioned just a little while ago, Greg, a stalwart here in a lot of the paint schemes that you see on these cars here tonight. But nonetheless, pace car down pit road, green flag in the flagman's hand, and there it is, green flag back in the air. There's a huge stack up. I heard you exclaim there, Greg. A huge stack up for about the fifth place.
They bottlenecked from fourth on back. Gormley, Frazier, Bellamy, and others, they all bottlenecked. I don't know what caused that, but I saw them beating and banging before they even got to the green. And we'll see who got the worst of it. Looks like everyone's okay for now, but that allowed a momentary breakaway for the top three. But Gormley coming back, but he did get hit from behind by Frazier's. I think Casey Garber may have got the wall. Hornet's Nest beginning to brew back here in the back. Casey Garber in the 96. Inside, Shane Quinn the 4. Bart Hector Jr. the 82 up there. They've broken away from the rest of that field that was going to bore behind them. But everyone realizes that now is go time. I don't know what is going to happen here in the closing stages, but I can tell you right now, we're in for some great racing for these next few laps.
Yeah, sparks flying out there on the racetrack. Look at the number 47 machine. Josh Robinson getting shoved up to the high side. We're almost 3 wide coming out of turn number 2. Pretty much single file for the first 7 cars. First side-by-side action is for the 8th position between Bart Hector Jr. and Casey Garber. Garber in the number 96 machine on the outside. There he is, going off into turn number 1 and 2. You see he's right up on that high line, just below the bumps that are up there. You can't run much higher than that and not hit the bumps. But, look at this. We have had a change for second position. Sean Breitzman has got around the number 8 machine, so move Breitzman into second. Breitzman, what can he do with Brad Carpenter? Carpenter trying to pull away here with now just 12 laps to go. Can Breitzman close in? Looks like Hector Jr. not able to get around Casey Garber just yet. That's going to allow the number 75 machine. We have not talked about Thomas O'Hara much here tonight, but Thomas O'Hara now inside the top 10 in that old Milwaukee beer machine. And sitting in that 10th position right there at the top of your screen. And there is the number 4 machine, Shane Quinn. Quinn, he's been languishing in 9th position. I've said it multiple times tonight because he was in 9th for a good portion of this race. Now he's worked his way to 7th, and he's caught the number 20 of Nick Bellamy for 6th. So Shane Quinn trying to make the most out of this number 4 machine in the closing lap, trying to get as much as he can for his points tally towards the end of the season. Every single point is going to matter. And now the big question is going to be, can Sean Breitzman close in? Can he catch and pass the number 31 of Brad Carpenter here, as we now have 9 laps to go at the start-finish line. There we go. 9 laps remaining here at Iowa Speedway.
Breitzman was able to shave half a tenth off that time by. It went from 45 hundredths to 40 hundredths, so Breitzman was a little bit quicker that time. We'll see what the margin is. He's pulled away from Breitzman, but hasn't really been able to take a whole lot of shots at the 31 of Carpenter yet. Margins stayed the same. They ran identical lap times that time, the 31 and the 46. So you want even Stevens at the end of the race? How about the top two running identical lap times with less than 10 laps to go, Peter?
Yeah, and I mean, gotta say, Brad Carpenter, if he can hold on, if his fuel tank can stay wet for the remainder of this race, I'll tell you what, that number 31 machine has put on a masterclass when it comes to strategy to get this win, but there's still 7 laps in between now and that checkered flag, and Brightsman just not able to close in on that 31. Last time by, he was about a half-tenth slower in that 46 machine. This time by, another couple of tenths slower. Excuse me, not tenths, but hundredths slower. So Brightsman not closing in like he needs to here in the closing laps of this race. The big question mark will be Brad Carpenter's fuel tank.
Does Carpenter have a lot? Closing stages of the race. Carpenter and Brightsman, one-on-one. Brightsman is looking for his first tour win in almost 2 years. Carpenter looking for his first one ever. Here you see the gap staying right around half a second for the time being. Brightsman taking a higher line through 3 and 4 that time. Oh, and he got the wall.
The outside wall.
That could be the dagger to Sean Brightsman's shot, as Brightsman is now going to have to hope that Carpenter can hold on, or cannot hold on fuel mileage, because now I think that's Brightsman's only shot.
The race lead is up over 7/10 of a second. In fact, it's now up to 8/10 of a second as they work their way out of turn number 4. Just only 3 laps to go here at Iowa Speedway for Brad Carpenter to get his first NorthWest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Product in tonight's NW Race Report race here at the Iowa Speedway. 151 laps, and Brad Carpenter just has now 2 more to go. Will he have enough fuel to get to the checkered flag? Doesn't look like he's backing off at all, Greg, and I'll tell you what, if he was low on fuel, he has enough of a gap now that he could back off just a little bit, clutch it on entry. He's not doing that. He must feel confident that he has enough fuel to get that number 31 machine to victory lane. White flag in the flagman's hand. 1 lap to go here at Iowa Speedway.
So Carpenter leading the way up to 7/10 of a second. You're on board with him as he comes off turn number 2 for the final time. Brad Carpenter looking smooth, and Peter, you mentioned it. Looks like he can almost coast from here. The strategy call of the year, Brad Carpenter, main winner. He's now an A-main winner in the Tour as well.
What a fantastic race. Sean Brightsman comes home second. Travis Barnes third. Brian Gormley fourth. Seth Frazier rounding out your top 5 here tonight as the rest of the field comes across the start-finish line. A couple cars look a little bit worse for wear out there, but nonetheless, we have 18 finishers on the lead lap. So very, very good finish to this event. And I'll tell you what, it's just an awesome race. And wow, Brad Carpenter getting the W here at Iowa Speedway. I'm sure he's glad to see that checkered flag after being a little bit concerned with his fuel.
For sure. Well, we're going to get our top 3 dialed up as you see them parking on the front stretch for pictures. So we're going to take a quick break while we get them dialed up. Winner Brad Carpenter interviews coming up next on 3 Wide TV. And we're back at Iowa Speedway where Brad Carpenter picks up his first career Northwest Tour victory, but we have caught up with third place in this one. Peter Short has caught up with Travis Barnes.
That I have, and Travis, my oh my, you were so fast right there in the middle portion of the race, but you kind of got snookered out of the second position there by Sean Brightsman right there at the end of this one. Not quite able to do something with the number 31 of Brad Carpenter. Did you just burn up your stuff trying to get around that number 31 machine, or how did that all play out toward the end of the race for you?
Well, during the race, it was just the car felt great in the beginning, and then after the pit stop, it just felt mediocre. I just couldn't get the car to do what I wanted it to do. The 31 car was running the right line because he was running 6s and 7s at the end. I was running 7s and 8s. But yeah, just costly mistakes, and I got third. I mean, it's not a bad finish.
Yeah, definitely a strong finish for that number 8 machine. And of course, we've seen a lot of strong finishes out of you so far this year in the Northwest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. And Iowa Speedway is one of those racetracks. It's very difficult to pass, be kind of frustrating. We've highlighted that a couple times here tonight on the broadcast. Coming home with a third place finish is very, very respectable for you. But are you one of those drivers who likes this racetrack, or are you one of those drivers who dislikes it?
I like it. Just all I did was practice, and I just got up to here. Just practice, repetitions. It gets you better.
Yeah, absolutely. It does get you better, especially around this track with the different lines, and it's very line sensitive, this racetrack, especially when you're by yourself out there on the racetrack. And you made that charge right there in the around the halfway distance, get a couple of race cars. Looked like you might have had a shot at taking the race lead from who was then your race leader, Matt Hackathorn. But that number 8 machine, very, very fast out there in the racetrack. But before I let you go, you got any shout outs for us?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my uncle Richard Turner and my stepdad Al Matthews for helping and supporting me. And I'd like to thank my mom a lot. She's a really big supporter as well. And I'd like to thank the sponsor of this race. It was Terry Bridges. I appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great night.
All right, yeah, absolutely. The NW Race Report on Facebook, go check them out. Very, very cool group of people up there in the Northwest. So thank you for highlighting them as well, Travis. Best of luck again in the next race.
Thanks, sir. Have a good night.
All right, that is your third place finisher here tonight, driver number 8 machine, Travis. And I believe that Greg Rentz has caught up with your second place finisher here tonight, the number 46 of Sean Brightsman, in that Kenny Schrader throwback.
That I have. Sean Brightsman, Greg Rentz, 3YTV. You got a copy.
Oh, we got you loud and clear.
All right, Sean, man, you kind of took your time just kind of picking your spots through the field, and you wound up with a second coming after Carpenter in the late stages, and thought you might have had a shot there if not for scrubbing the wall late. What happened there?
I tried a different line, and it just didn't work. I wasn't really making any or enough ground with the short run at the end there, running the same line as him. So needed to try to change it up and see if we could wheel it, and fortunately scraped the wall a little bit.
Well, Sean, tell us about your run through the field, because we were watching you throughout the course of the race. You were just picking your spot on each pass you made, and then to come from 14th to finish second, that's got to feel pretty good to know that you can go through traffic like that.
It feels great. It really was a good night overall for us. We qualified second or third, so started at the back or mid-pack there at the invert, and just kind of worked the way through, like you said, methodically. Picked the places to pass. It was easy to pass at the start of the race up high. A lot of people are just kind of trying to save tires and everything, so you could grab a few and then conserve some tires. So just tried to pick my battles with who I was racing with. Travis and I had some great run-ins, and I think I picked up something from him after he passed me after that first run, so before we switched tires.
All right, man. Well, hey, it's a big week for you this week, and this is a good start to your week as you build some momentum going towards what you got coming in the next couple of days.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to this week and next week, of course, too. But definitely a good start. We'll go for a championship tomorrow in the Northwest Xfinity Series, and looking forward to the Truck Series in a couple weeks.
And we want to wish you good luck in that as well. And we know you have some shout-outs that you want to give, so Who you got? Who got you the second?
I gotta give it up to NorthWest Tour, presented by Joe's Racing Products, for throwing out the NorthWest Race Report NASCAR Throwback Night. I got to run a Ken Schrader scheme tonight, and Kenny's been around forever. Anybody who doesn't appreciate Kenny for what he's done is probably not a true race fan. He's done a lot for the sport, and I mean, he still runs, every week on Saturday night. So big shout out to Ken Schrader, and then everybody at the NorthWest Tour, presented by Joe's Racing, for doing that, and NorthWest Race Report for bringing out the NASCAR Throwback Night.
All right, that's second place, Sean Brightsman, building some momentum towards a big week. Sean, good luck the rest of the way, and congratulations on the second tonight.
Thank you, Greg.
And that was second place, Sean Brightsman. But Peter has caught up with a guy who just became the second straight driver to win the B main and followed up in the A main. Peter Short's got your winner.
That I have, and like you said, for the second race in a row, we've got the same driver win the B main and the A main. But tonight, Brad, you didn't just do it in an easy fashion. You went down pit road, made a strategy call. We heard that you thought you might be short on fuel, but the fuel held up and you come to victory lane. Just tell us, how close were you on fuel there towards the end of the race?
Well, if I wouldn't have had those cautions, I would have ran out of fuel. I had 2 gallons left. So I have another app that keeps monitoring the fuel, and if we would have gone all the way, it would have been close, but luckily we have those cautions, so it worked out all for me. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely very, very cool. And what was kind of going through your head before making that pit stop? I mean, were you trying to do the math in your head, or were you using the app to calculate it? Did you know how close you would be once you got off pit road?
Well, I was trying to figure out what everybody else is going to do, and I was going to put 10 gallons in, then I niched it and just went with, I think, 8 gallons, and so yeah, it was a guessing game. It was just luck of the draw on that one.
Well, it worked out for you getting your first win here in the NorthWest Tour, presented by Joe's Racing Products in the NASCAR Throwback race here, brought to you by the NorthWest Race Report, NW Race Report on Facebook. Next weekend, we got the twin main event night at Martinsville. It's going to be very, very interesting. Of course, Martinsville is a completely unique racetrack, kind of like how Iowa is. Iowa is pretty unique, but very, very different from Iowa. What are your thoughts about going to Martinsville?
Oh, I like short tracks. I think Martinsville, it's a fun track. Just depends on what the setup will be like. If it's super loose, it's not going to be fun, but we'll have to wait and see what happens this week.
Well, I talked to Seth Frazier and BJ Tidrick at the beginning of the season, and they mentioned to me that they're going to try and make a lot of these race cars fairly loose to try and improve the racing. So you might be in for a not so great surprise when you get there next week. But I'll tell you what, you put on a fantastic race tonight, both in the B main. You led flag to flag of the B main, and led the last half of the A main. Very strong showing from that number 31 machine. Just how important is it for you to get this win at this point in the season?
It's pretty important because in practice I was about 2/10 off the fast guys, and that was really bothersome to me. And during the race, I just tried to hit my marks and stay smooth, and that's what paid off. So I've missed a couple races though, just because of family commitments. So it's just for fun right now, but I'll take the win when I can.
Absolutely. A fantastic win here tonight. Looking forward to Martinsville this time next week. But before we let you go, you got some shout-outs for us?
Yeah, I want to thank Mike Wood. He's the one that did a paint replica of my real race car that I used to race. And again, just thanks to you guys and BJ and Seth for putting the series on. It's a great series.
Absolutely. It is a fantastic series, the NorthWest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. But I'll tell you what, hopefully you can come away with yet another victory next week at Martinsville. Best of luck there.
I will do my best. Thank you guys very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is your first-time winner here tonight. Brad Carpenter in the number 31 machine, taking the checkered flag here at Iowa Speedway. And I'll tell you what, Greg, I think that means we have just about one more thing left to do, Greg, and that would be go through tonight's final race results. Take it away.
Coming home with the win, like you just talked to, Brad Carpenter in the number 31 first career Northwest Tour victory. And it's a big one here at Iowa on Throwback Night, brought to you by NorthWest Racing Report. Sean Brightsman comes home second, Travis Barnes third, rounding out your podium. Ryan Gormley in the number 44 gets the number 4 spot on the tower, with Seth Frazier fighting back to the top 5 after such a rough start. Nick Bellamy, Shane Quinn, Casey Garber, great run for him. Fast Time Bardecker Jr. stalled out around 9th, and Thomas O'Hara rounds out the top 10.
Finishing in the 11th position tonight, that would be BJ Tidrick in the number 72 machine, transferred over into the A main from the B main with a provisional here tonight, but a 11th place finish here tonight. Travis McKinney comes home in 12th. A lot of front end damage on that number 48 machine. I'm glad, I bet he's glad, I should say, that this night is over. Dylan Huff finds another car that was quite beaten up by the end of it, comes home in 13th. Adam Holm in that 911 machine, of course, running that first responders firefighter paint scheme here tonight in support of the fires in Australia. Got to highlight that. Comes home 14th. Cameron Doyle, who finished in second in the B main, comes home 15th. John Haynes in the 29 machine, 16th. Bren Holloway, 17th. Josh Robinson, 18th. The 19th position goes to Brian Lambert. And rounding out your top 20, Casey Tillman in the number 92 finishes 30 laps down. Matt Hackathorn led a good portion of this race, but unfortunately finishes in 21st. Christopher Heim, 22nd. Brad Morrison, 23rd. Garrett Huffines and James Paulson round out the 25-car grid that started tonight's event. Oh, there's James Paulson right there, coming right at you here on 3 Wide TV. But we will be back next week for the twin races at Martinsville. Same place, same time here in the Northwest Tour, presented by Joe's Racing Products. But for myself, Peter Short, Greg Rance, and Carlos Acosta, we bid each and every one of you a good night. And I do want to give a few more shout-outs. I got to give a shout-out to our friends over at SimTV for the camera angles, and also our friends at OCR TV, Thomas Morris, for the graphics package. But now I can finally say good night. We'll see you guys next week. See ya!